Good evening. All right, is New Kappa Alpha or New Alpha Kappa here? Come on up. Where are you guys? Come on up. Well, all of you, the whole row. This is exciting. This is an agenda item that's called the Million Acts of Kindness, and this is the time set aside to recognize some constituents and residents. Hey, how's it going? They have done some good, kind work in our community. How are you guys? Hey, good seeing you guys. Sorry, I'm Sigma Alpha Epsilon, so I don't know your secret handshake. I apologize. New Alpha Kappa has done some great things in our community. They don't just stay on Stanislaus's campus. They really try and become a part of Turlock and better Turlock while they're here. A lot of them are natives of Turlock, but they try to make our city a better place as long as they're living here. And so they've had two big events that they put on. One was back in April when they turned Columbia Park into a carnival. And so they came in here and advertised that they were going to be putting on this carnival for the local neighborhood. And they had a pretty good turnout, and they had kids coming out there and playing, and you guys did a great job there. And then just recently, they had a convention, and you guys had some other brothers that were coming down here, or did you guys have it together? And they decided to help clean the spray park over at Columbia and at Donnelly Park, which, as you guys know, during the hot season, and I know it's raining outside, so it's hard to, it's easy to forget that we have hot, dry summers. But that's the place where a lot of our kids are able to go play, stay cool. It's a cheap alternative to just staying home or getting into trouble. And so the fact that you guys lent a helping hand to clean those spray parks up was great. So I just want to give them a great round of applause. All right. And an official certificate. So, all right. May it be known that this certificate is awarded to New Alpha Kappa in recognition of your dedication to the city of Turlock through the fraternity's inspirational community service. Your Knackland Carnival event and maintenance efforts at Columbia and Donnelly Parks demonstrate your kind spirit and involvement within the community. Your contributions to the community make you an excellent choice as a Million Acts of Kindness Award recipient. On behalf of the entire City Council and a grateful community, may I extend our recognition and sincere congratulations on your noteworthy contributions. Congratulations. You can take it in. Absolutely. It's all you, buddy.
My name is Jose Diaz. I am the National Program Director of that fraternity, former president of the fraternity here at Stanislaus, and we always try to, put efforts into our community, into the children of which, they're going to be the future of our cities, they're going to be attending our schools and stuff. So we always try to give back to our community, specifically to the children, simply because we know that they are the ones that are going to be here and hopefully, follow our footsteps and, put in the work that, we do so that other children can do, as they're doing. So thank you.
So congratulations, guys. Two handshakes and one. Thank you. Perfect. Awesome. Always good way to start off the meeting. This next item is a fun one too. So is Carlo around? Where's Carlo? Come on up. Yeah, give him a round of applause. I agree. So I stopped your supervisor in the hall as I was walking out. I was like, congratulations, you're the inaugural department. And he was like, what? And he didn't know what I was talking about. But it's because you are our employee of the month, which is a new program that the city manager has talked to us, and we've put together a staff committee that reviews nominations and goes through the whole database of all our staff and all of the accomplishments from the staff, and you're our number one pick. So this is really exciting. This is the fun part, though. I get to embarrass you with your bio and all the good stuff that you do. So Carlo Grossman has been named the City of Turlock's Employee of the Month for December 2016. Carlo was nominated for his positive attitude, willingness to help end users with issues relating to web page, email, network login, and all other IT-related issues. Yes, Turlock has some IT issues every once in a while, but you guys help troubleshoot them. That's good. His very calm demeanor and perspective always puts other employees at ease when working with him. His communication style and his willingness to always go the extra mile is always present when serving customers. An 18-year veteran of the city's Information Technology Division, Carlo came from Monterey to Turlock to earn his BA degree from CSUS. He joined the city working part-time during his senior year and was made full-time after graduation. Personal hobbies and activities. Carlo is married to Kathy, his wife of 17 years, and they have two young boys, Kyle and Caleb. Are they here? There they are. Get up here. What's going on? Give them a round of applause. Come on, guys. They're going to help me demonstrate this second point, that Carlo is an avid Oakland Raiders fan. So, is it too late to take this award away? Is this, I don't know. He is a season ticket holder and enjoys attending the games with his sons, which is pretty awesome. Every morning before work, Carlo enjoys playing racquetball with his friends. So I'm really excited about this. So I'm going to present this award to all three of you, okay? It's the official certificate. So, Carlo Grossman, we hereby express our sincere appreciation for your outstanding employment, performance, productivity, and commitment to the city of Turlock. Your dedication and hard work have been recognized by your peers. Therefore, you are awarded the Employee of the Month for December 2016. On behalf of the entire City Council and fellow coworkers, may I extend our recognition and sincere appreciation for your employment service. Congratulations. Congratulations. Congratulations, guys. Mike is yours.
Actually, I just had a quick question. Is there a way to get like a bumper sticker from my wife's car that says my husband was Employee of the Month?
Absolutely.
But seriously though, it means a lot to me to accept this award, and it's truly an honor too to be the #1 selected Employee of the Month. So that really means a lot to me. I want to thank Mr. City Manager for creating this program. For all the city employees like me that come into work every day and work really hard and don't really know if anybody notices. So thank you very much for creating that. Thanks to my IT team for all their support. Thanks to my family here that's here with me tonight. And thanks to my mom who might be watching. Thank you for instilling me to always do my best. So thank you very much.
Perfect. Here, guys, you can have your dad's bio. It's pretty cool, huh? See you. Thanks, Carl. All right. Moving on to item 2C, appointments, Planning Commission, 2 commissioners. I'd like to nominate, or actually put forward, Mr. Jim Reap and Miss Constance Anderson. Do I have a motion?
So moved. Second.
Okay, so we have a motion by Vice Mayor DeHart, second by Councilman Jacob. Clerk, please call the roll.
Appointing Jim Reap and Constance Anderson to fill vacancies on the Planning Commission for a term set to expire on December 31st, 2020. Councilmember DeHart?
Yes.
Councilmember Esquer?
Yes.
Councilmember Bublak?
Yes.
Councilmember Jacob?
Yes.
Mayor Soise?
Yes, motion carries 5-0. And Jim and Constance, are you guys here? If you could stand up and come over to the microphone if you want to say a few words, and give them a round of applause for the open house. Like putting you on the spot.
I know, huh? Yeah. Hello, everybody. My name is Jim Reap. I've met many of you over the years, and looking forward to spending some time up here and serving Turlock in another way. So thank you.
Perfect. Thanks so much, Jim. Thanks.
Mayor, City Council, thank you very much for the appointment. My family are long-term residents of the area, and I'm proud to serve the city in this capacity after having now moved back here for 7 years. So this is my home, will continue to be my home, and I am proud to serve. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Constance. All right. I have 2 vacancies on the Parks, Arts, and Recreation Commission, and I would like to suggest Ms. Sandra Loza and Mr. Jonathan Bolus. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All right, we have a motion by Councilman Jacob, seconded by Vice Mayor DeHart. Clerk, please call the roll. Excuse me.
Appointing Sandra Loza and Jonathan Bolos to fill vacancies on the Planning Commission for a term set to expire on December 31st, 2019. Councilmember DeHart?
Yes.
Councilmember Esquer?
Yes.
Councilmember Bublak?
Yes.
Councilmember Jacob?
Yes.
Mayor Soiseth?
Yes, motion carries 5-0. Sandra and Jonathan, are you here? Sandra's here. Come on up and introduce yourself to Turlock. Give them a round of applause as they come up.
Hi everyone, I'm Sandra Loza. I've been a long-term resident here of Turlock. Mayor Soisa, thank you so much for the recommendation, and council, I'm honored to serve in this capacity. I look forward to working closely with you and to serving our city. Thank you so much.
Thanks so much. Absolutely, round of applause. And what Ms. Loza failed to mention is that she is now the new assistant for the chairman of the board up at the Board of Supervisors. So she'll be working for Vito, and we'll probably see you in that capacity as well. So thank you so much for your service there. Hey, Jonathan.
Hey, I'm Jonathan Bolus, and thank you, Mayor, for the recommendation, and props for the correct pronunciation on the first try. That doesn't happen often, and thank you, City Council, for the confirmation. I was born and raised in Turlock, and now I'm raising a few kids here, and I'm excited to serve and hopefully preserve the tradition of Turlock so that they can fall in love with it the same way that I did. So thank you, everyone.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. And the reason we give so much applause to the four of you is because you guys are going to have a lot of time commitments coming up. So we thank you for your service and dedication to Turlock preemptively. All right, moving on to appointments to the Alliance. I would like to recommend myself to serve on the Alliance. Do I have a motion? All right.
Second.
We have a motion by Vice Mayor Dehart, seconded by Councilman Jacob. Clerk, please call the roll. Or read back and then call the roll.
Appointing Mayor Soiseth as the City of Turlock's representative to the Alliance. Councilmember Esquer, Councilmember Dehart, Councilmember Esquer. Sorry.
Aye.
Councilmember Dehart,
Yes.
Councilmember Bublak,
Yes.
Councilmember Jacob,
Yes.
Mayor Soiseth.
Yes, motion carries 5-0. It's going to be a long night if we keep up this pace. All right. Moving on to item F, an appointment to the West Turlock Sub-Basin Groundwater Sustainability Agency, member and alternate member. I'd like to recommend myself as the member and Councilmember Bublak as the alternate member. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All right, we have a motion by Councilman Jacob, seconded by Vice Mayor Dehart. Clerk, please read it back and call the roll.
Appointing Mayor Soiseth as member and Councilmember Bublak as alternate member as the City of Turlock's representatives to the West Turlock Sub-Basin Groundwater Sustainability Agency. Councilmember Esquer,
Yes.
Councilmember Dehart,
Yes.
Councilmember Bublak,
Yes.
Councilmember Jacob,
Yes.
Mayor Soiseth.
Yes, motion carries 5-0. Thank you. Now moving on to a presentation from PG&E on the tree planting donation presented by Thomas Reeves of PG&E's Government Relations.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor Soiseth, council members. Thanks very much for having me this evening. As you know, over the last decade, PG&E has accomplished a lot of work in the city of Turlock, replacing gas pipeline and testing and validating the strength of our pipelines. And the goal is to ensure safety for the residents of Turlock. We also realize that it's not good enough just to make them safe. We have to maintain them and make sure that they remain safe over time. And part of that job is to ensure that there are no structures or vegetation that could impede the pipeline, and could be rooted structures or rooted plants and trees and vegetation that tend to grow on top of them. So we've been working with the city for quite some time on that. And I'm happy to say that we're almost finished with that work in the city of Turlock. We've accomplished all but one project, which should be accomplished in February or March. Just based on the weather, we'd like to wait till it stops raining. So we've gone through and we've done the mitigation required. We've planted more trees and more vegetation in place or next to. And at this time, and we're grateful for the opportunity to work with your staff. Your staff's been fantastic to work with, and so we're grateful, especially Mike Pitcock and Debbie Whitmore, who's here. Thank you very much for all your help. And so in recognition of that great partnership that we've had with the city, and because of your commitment to safety, PG&E would like to offer an additional $10,000 contribution to your city's tree planting opportunities for the future. So that is with me. It's a big check, as always.
I will gladly come get that check. All right. This works. Solution, and that you looked and said, where can we help out? and it wasn't just a small help. $10,000 is nothing to sneeze at, and so this will go a long way. I think this is going to be specifically for some of those trees that have been stressed and have died due to the drought and due to some other issues out at Pedretti and other places in Turlock. So this is going to go a long way for the city of Turlock, so thank you so much. Absolutely. Perfect. I don't know where to put it.
Right in front of the dance.
Exactly. All right, thank you so much. Okay, moving on to special briefings, we have none. Policy goals and implementation plan, it looks like we have none unless staff change their minds.
There's none tonight.
There's none, okay, there it is. I knew, getting confirmation. Capital projects and building activity, Director Pitcock.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor, members of the council. With our December totals in the building division, we had 86 permits issued in December, and that's a short month due to the week off during the Christmas holiday. Of that, all but 17 of them were done through the expedited process, so it was reached out to be 80% of the permits. For the total for 2016, we had 1,359 permits for the year. 85% were actually done in the expedited fashion, and 4,593 inspections for the year. So we had a good year, slightly higher than the year before. Not a large growth, but it was higher, so we are seeing some growth. Any questions on the building activity?
Any questions or comments? Nope.
On the capital side, fire station exhaust removal and the fire burn training facilities, with both of those, we've got the agreements back and it required insurance, and they're in the process of getting executed as we speak. And the authorization to proceed will be issued shortly. We'll be asking them to come in for a pre-construction meeting here shortly so we can get them out there and going as soon as the weather breaks. The Broadway parking lot project, the contractor has demolished all the existing parking lot facilities, and they are in the process of constructing the stormwater chamber as well as some piping they've done, and they've got some actual concrete curbs that they've installed as well. The Rubosh fencing project, where the contractor is waiting on materials. As soon as we get the materials in, he'll begin erecting that fence. The blower building at the wastewater treatment plant, that work has been completed, so that's a finished project. And then the last project I wanted to bring to your attention was the Folkerth and Golden State Boulevard intersection improvements. You may have seen this in the Modesto Bee. We're actually out to bid right now, and we are scheduled to receive bids Thursday, and we'll be before the council on February 14th for your consideration. I do have two more updates I'd like to give you. One is on our transit update. Effective January 2nd, we implemented the new bus routes and stops per our short-range transit plan. We've heard a lot of good feedback when it comes to the bi-directional aspect of it and the longer service hours. However, we do have some feedback that we're getting that's negative in the sense that we're relocating certain stops and the routes don't go on certain roads that they used to go on. Our consultant and staff will be evaluating all these comments and concerns. We will be taking that feedback in any shape, form that we can get it, and we will actually be having some public meetings in the future. When we put together the routes, there was a lot of public input that went around with that, but we don't think that just because the routes have been set that the public input stops already. So we're actually going to be taking a lot of public input, and we want to see if we can make some modifications to make our transit system more effective. So we're going to continue to take information or some consideration from the public. And then I wanted to give the public and council, if you have concerns, comments, would like to reach out to us, you can do it by email at transit@turlock.ca.us, or you can reach us at 668-5600. And when you get to the phone tree, dial 4, and that'll go to our transit planner, and you can talk to him about what's working and what's not working. So we're looking for good and bad comments. Any questions regarding our new routes that we've implemented?
Any questions or comments?
Okay.
No, thank you.
And in Tuolumne and Golden State signal complaint, we've had some complaints recently about what appears that the signal's in timed fashion. For some time, we've been having issues with detection on the west side of the tracks. When we installed the signal, we did not bore conduit under the tracks, so we wanted to try some wireless technology. Unfortunately, that wireless technology hasn't lived up to its what they promised, and we're seeing that situations where we're getting a constant call. So what's happening is the green time on the Tuolumne side is taking too long, which makes those waiting on Golden State Boulevard have to wait a little bit longer. We are actively looking at new technology to replace what we have. And if worse comes to shove, we will have to go in and we'll actually bore underneath the track at some point in time as funding is. I'm trying not to, but if that, really the old technology, the old inductive loops is the one that seems to be the most effective and works the best. So we're trying to find the technology so we don't have to go under the tracks. However, if need be, we will do that as well. So, but we do need to. We are aware of the problem. We are working on it. Be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions or comments for Director Pitcock? No.
That's my presentation for this evening.
All right, thank you so much. Appreciate it. I think that storm drain across the street at Broadway is getting a dry run or a wet run right now. Yeah. Got that stuff. Good joke, I know. All right, moving on to the Stanislaus Regional Water Authority update. Director Cook.
Good evening, Mayor Soyseth and members of the City Council. With us tonight is Jerry Nakano from West Yost Associates, a consulting civil engineering company, to give an update on the Regional Surface Water Supply Project. Since 1985, the City of Turlock has participated in a number of efforts to obtain a supply of treated surface water to supplement our drinking water supply, which is a groundwater-only supply system right now. And the City of Turlock is a member of the Stanislaus Regional Water Authority. We call it the SRWA, which is a joint powers authority which was established in 2011. The SRWA is a partnership of two cities, the City of Turlock and the City of Ceres, with a 4-person board that includes 2 representatives from each city. So Mayor Soyseth and Councilmember Bublak are your representatives from Turlock, and the mayor and a council member from Ceres are the Ceres representatives. Our city attorney acts as interim general counsel to the SRWA board. The interim general manager is here, Mike Brinton. This is the city engineer from the city of Ceres. And I see her from TID and Bill Penny from TID here too. So a group of us involved are here tonight too if you have any questions. And the water will be supplied by TID from the Tuolumne River. In April of last year, West Yost was hired by the SRWA as the program manager for the project. What that means is West Yost has been tasked with taking care of all the regulatory, technical, financial aspects of the project to get it to the point where you could take it to the point of bidding and design and construction. So this city council sitting here tonight and your counterparts in Ceres will have to make a number of critical decisions over the next 2 years regarding this project. And so we've invited Jerry along tonight to let you know where we've been, where we are, and where we're going on the project. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Michael. Mayor Soyseth and members of the City Council, good evening. It's my pleasure tonight to provide you with a very quick summary briefing of the Stanislaus Regional Water Authority's proposed project called the Surface Water Supply Project. As several of you may know, this project has been talked about for probably the last 20, 25 years. Until the current board took leadership and under their vision and under the hard work of the TAC members who are staffers of both the cities of Ceres and Turlock, as well as the representation of TID in these TAC meetings. This project is soon to become a reality. It's going to move from the vision to a reality here, and I will be talking to you about our proposed schedule here. Let's just take a half a step back first, though, and review kind of why is this project necessary. The city of Turlock is currently being supplied 100% by groundwater wells. So there are approximately 19 active city wells that provide all of the water supply for the city. Unfortunately, 4 of those active wells are currently out of service due to water quality. And historically, the city has had trouble finding good locations for new wells because of this quality issue. Quantity is not a problem, but the quality, where it does not require wellhead treatment, is an issue of concern. So with the declining water levels of the drought, and hard to say that today as it's pouring outside, But with the drought conditions and the continuing concerns about the existing water quality in the groundwater basin, the sustainability of the groundwater basin to be able to meet your current needs as well as your future needs is really in question. And so this project provides both cities with tremendous benefits and the opportunity to create a diverse water supply portfolio so that the city's supplies would be a combination of both groundwater and surface water. So that is why the project is necessary. The graphic here is just a quick illustration of those wells in green are the active city wells. The ones in reds have been shut down or are not in operation because of water quality concerns. So it shows you the issues that the city is facing here. So let's talk about the SRWA Surface Water Project for a minute. It is combined, or it's composed of 4 major elements, and I'll talk about each one in a little bit more detail. But essentially, it's the raw water facilities. These facilities will draw water from the Tuolumne River, and the location is just west of the Gear Road Bridge over the Tuolumne River. The second component is the water treatment plant, which is located just east of the bridge location. The treated water transmission mains, there will be one large transmission main going to the city of Ceres and another one going to the city of Turlock. And then the fourth component is the local facilities that will take this treated water and then integrate it with each one of the city's local facilities. So let's talk about the raw water facilities first. So again, just for perspective, the Gear Road Bridge, Fox Grove Park. The infiltration gallery is located in the Tuolumne River, just west of the facility. And then for perspective, to the east of Fox Grove is the water treatment plant site that I'll talk about in a minute. But the infiltration gallery has already been installed. This facility was installed by TID in about 2001, 2002, when there was other river restoration work going on in the river. And so the picture you can see is the picture of the infiltration gallery. The infiltration gallery is composed of 16 40-foot long, 24-inch diameter well screens, stainless steel well screens. That have a capacity of about 65 million gallons per day. And again, these facilities are in place, and the water, each set of 4 24-inch pipes goes into a single 36-inch pipe, and those pipes were terminated in the south bank of the river levee. And so again, they currently are not accessible, but the facility in the river is there. To be able to get access to the infiltration gallery, a wet well, or what we're calling a raw water intake facility, will have to be constructed. And so that is where a lot of the focus of our work is now. The wet well is a joint facility with TID. As Mr. Cook said, the water supply for this is to be provided by TID under a long-term sales agreement with the authority for up to 30,000 acre-feet a year. And the facility, this wet well facility, which is a large facility, it's approximately 40 feet wide by about 75 feet long and about 48 feet deep. This is a huge, very large excavation and concrete structure, which would basically tie into these infiltration pipelines, and then pumps would then pump from this facility to the water treatment plant. And this wet well facility is about 50% designed at this point in time, and we're looking at actually moving to construction late summer of this year. The water treatment plant site, again, just east of Fox Grove Park, is about a 48-acre piece of property owned by TID, but is to be purchased by the authority. For planning purposes, the initial capacity is being designed for up to 30 MGD, and the site itself would be planned for future expansion for up to 45 MGD. And again, depending on the water sampling that I'll speak about in a minute that is ongoing, we are looking at various treatment evaluations are currently underway. So coming out of the treatment plant are the major transmission lines, or what we're calling the finished water transmission lines. As shown here, there will be a approximately 30-inch diameter single pipeline, 5 miles long, essentially down Hatch Road, to be able to provide that treated water supply to the city of Ceres. Similarly, a larger pipeline, 7.25 miles long, about a 42-inch pipeline is proposed to provide water to the city of Turlock, as shown here. These alignments were chosen so that they would be mainly in county road rights-of-way as well as in TID rights-of-way. And then finally, the treated water transmission mains would terminate in a terminal reservoir located at each one of the cities, respectively. A pump station would then take that water and pump it into the local facilities, and there may be local facility upgrades or extra pipelines or facilities that would need to be built to then totally integrate these supplies with the existing groundwater supplies. So there are a number of project goals that the authority has with this project, and they're listed here. It's to really improve water supply quality, improve the reliability of these supplies to both cities' existing customers by diversifying the supply portfolio, to provide in lieu aquifer recharge to support the regional groundwater sustainability, increase operational flexibility for staffs in both cities. And really, this project will also provide environmental benefits to Tuolumne River aquatic species because of the increased flows that would be released down the river to then be captured at the infiltration gallery. So to give you just a quick update of the actual work that has been completed over about the last 9 months by the team, there have been a number of technical memos that have been completed, and these are important because these technical memos create the basis for the project. They define the project, they identify the key goals and parameters of the project, and the major tech memos are listed here. We looked at project phasing and sizing, looked through the historical review of all the water quality so that we knew what parameters we could expect and what constituents have not been tested for. Working with the TAC, we developed the treatment performance goals. We're looking at treatment alternatives. We developed a water quality sampling plan. We looked at various transmission alignments to be able to save costs for both of the cities on these projects. A funding strategy for this project was also developed. Cost allocation was developed between the two cities, including TID, and then a public outreach plan was also developed. The Division of Drinking Water has accepted the authority's submitted raw water sampling plan, and this is to a plan that bi-weekly samples are taken from the Tuolumne River. This would continue for about a 2-year period to be able to clearly define the water quality that is going to be treated, and that sets the basis for the water treatment train that would be then designed. And as part of the funding strategy, state revolving fund general loan application has also been submitted on behalf of the authority in early December. And the reason that's important is because the current rates, and can't guarantee what they're going to be ultimately, but the current rates are very favorable. They're about 1.66% on loans versus municipal bond rate loans, which are probably in the 4% range. So this is a considerable savings to the authority. Looking at where the project is going here, work currently underway. We spoke about the water quality sampling and then the evaluation of treatment alternatives based on those water quality samples. The wet well at 50% design with hopefully construction later this summer. We are going to be implementing the actual public outreach plan that was already adopted. We're in the process of updating and refining our cost estimates here so that then that would roll into looking at what the potential impacts to an average monthly bill would be to residents of both of the cities. And correspondingly, EIR work is also moving forward here. We have put together a project milestone schedule here that has several assumptions in it. Some of the key milestones are shown here, but I know that you're just really looking at the bottom line here, which is basically saying that if this project stays on track, we are currently looking at delivering treated surface water to both cities in about 5.5 years, or in and around May of 2022. With that, I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Jerry. Any questions or comments from the council? Sorry. This was pretty large. Any questions or comments from the public on this item? Yes, Mr. Treeweiler. You know the song and dance didn't change in 2017. Get to the microphone.
Yes, I was just interested in the treatment at the Fox Grove treatment portion of this project. Is that water going to be drinkable at that point? You're saying you're piping it then to a reservoir outside, south or north of Turlock. Is it potable when it comes out of your the first treatment plant?
Yes. Yes.
So then how come we're putting potable water in a reservoir that can contaminate the water?
Well, maybe it's instead of reservoir, I should have used a storage tank. This is
Okay,
a closed
storage tank, I
I'm
can
s-
understand.
yeah.
Okay,
It's a
thank you.
closed
That's
facility.
what
Sorry.
I was concerned
My
about. I thought,
error.
why are we putting drinkable water in an open reservoir that
No,
could be
it's a-
contaminated? Thank you. You answered my question.
Thank you, Milt. Good job. All right. What else? Anybody else from the public on this item? All right. Okay. Bringing it back to the council. Any further questions? SRWA does meet every other Thursday, and it is hosted here at the City of Turlock. Amy and I are there because we're representing Turlock, but anyone from the public is allowed to come, encouraged to come. Same with council members. But yeah, this is the progress so far, and we're hitting our stride.
10 a.m.
Knock on wood. Yeah. All right. Perfect. 10 a.m. Thank you so much, Jerry.
10 a.m.
10 a.m. on Thursday. Yeah, and this next Thursday there'll be a meeting. All right. Moving on to fiscal year 2017-18 and 2018-19 budget process outline. City Manager.
Good evening, Mayor, members of council. This evening, I wanted to take a few minutes to review with you the process that we have developed and are prepared to implement in the development of the 2017-18 through 2018-19 fiscal budget process. Primarily, we want to share a few of the steps that we will undertake, identify some forecasted meetings, and we're prepared to move forward unless we hear otherwise from council tonight. Your department directors are already underway working with their individual department staff to begin developing the first draft of their two-year budgets. And before I go further, let me just refer you to the internal staff memo that was left on the dais for each of you. That's an internal memo that has communicated this information to each of the department heads so that everybody is working in unison on the same plan. On January 24th, the council will convene a meeting to review and update the council policy goals and implementation plan. That's our first step in the planning process for this two-year budget cycle. It's important for us to know your focus and your vision and projects that you want to complete. February 28th, the City Council is scheduled to complete a review and update the 5-year capital improvement program and 5-year small equipment replacement schedule. And of course, this is something that you've done in previous years, but we're trying to get it done earlier in the budget preparation process. On March 10th, staff will submit their first draft budgets to finance for preparation of the city manager review. The week of March 20th, the city manager will meet with the department heads to review the draft general budgets, ensuring they align with council priorities, council's policies and goals, as well as state and federal mandates. On the week of April 13th, the city manager will meet with each of the department directors to review their draft non-general fund budgets. On April 25th, the city council will again convene the first of two workshops reviewing the draft general fund budget as recommended by the city manager. The staff and city manager will be requesting feedback from council. On May 9th, the city council will convene a second of two workshops on the general fund budget. And again, we will be responding with any feedback that you provided in the first workshop. So this will give us a chance to tune it even finer. On May 23rd, City Council will convene a review of the non-general fund budget, and we will take that feedback. And then ultimately on June 13th, Council will consider adopting the budget. All budget workshops that I've mentioned here this evening will be appropriately noticed. They have been tentatively scheduled to convene at 5 p.m. prior to the regularly scheduled council meeting on the dates that I've outlined. The workshops will be posted to the city website if they have not been already under the city council meeting schedule. So with that, frankly, staff is already underway putting together the fiscal year 17-18, 18-19 budgets, but I thought it was important to just gain a little bit of feedback from council, make sure we're headed in the right direction. I know that in previous years you have gone through and done and completed a comprehensive line-by-line review of the budget, and so we benefit from that. I'm not recommending the necessity to do that again because it's already has this council's fingerprints for the most part on every line of that budget. And I think you all know it as well as every one of our department directors.
All right. Any feedback? I don't know if we know it as well as all the directors, but we know it. We're aware of it. Thanks.
What I said, I suspect that you know it well.
Okay, there we go. Any questions or comments? I want to piggyback on what you said, and that's for the new councilman, that the reason why it was built in the policy goals and implementation plan to review every 2 years is to coincide with each election. And I really want you to feel very open to giving us your input into that plan and what you want to see accomplished, working with the city manager specifically. That goes for all of us as we sit up here and as our goals modify and change and evolve. But definitely, Councilman Esquer, please feel free to interject and we can talk about the direction we're headed. I don't anticipate major shifts from the council, but I think that there's always priorities that come up that we need to look at. So, anybody else? Any comments, questions, feedback? All right. No, this is great. This is the exact outline that we're looking for, so I appreciate it. Thank you all, and thanks to the directors in advance. All right, moving on. Public participation. This time set aside for members of the public to address the council on any item that they'd like. If it is going to be pertaining to a net council item that we're going to address later on, I'd ask you to hold your comments till then. So I will go and start off with Miss Diane Bartlett. Where is she? Come on up for our library update.
Thank you so much, and I'd like to begin tonight by thanking Mayor Soyseth for being our guest reader last night at our special family story time. And really, we are in the business of fostering the love of reading at the libraries, but it's so nice to have somebody from the community come and help us do that work. Thank you so much. Our story times for kids are continuing. Our current session runs January, February, and March, and for ages under 3, it's on Wednesdays at 10 and repeated at 11. On Thursdays, we have story time for ages 3 to 5, also at 10 and repeated at 11. But really this month, I kind of wanted to focus on the teens. We have we have one new event, and then we have our ongoing events. It's January. May is not very far off, and for those of you parents who do not know that most of our kids in Turlock need to do some community service hours by usually May, the library does offer opportunities for the kids to get their community service hours. One is on the first Saturday of the month at 3 o'clock. We have a reading club, a book club, where you can come and share what you're reading with your peers. And if you write me a book review, I will give you some community service credit. And then on the second Wednesday of the month at 4 o'clock, we have our advisory board. It's been a long time since I've been 17, about 40 years, so I need some help in deciding what kind of programs are appropriate for the library. Of our Friends of the Library, their annual book sale, which has been going on for years and years, will once again be at the First United Methodist Church. It will be, Members Night will be Thursday, January 26th from 4 to 8, and the public sale will be on Friday, the 27th from 9 to 7, and Saturday, the 28th from 9 to 5. So if you see this bright yellow poster around town, you'll know what that's about. And we hope that you come and support the book sale. Proceeds from the book sale go to the library for programs, for books and materials, and a portion this year will be given to our library building fund. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you so much, Ms. Bartlett. All right, Mr. Robert Allen, come on up.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you, Councilman. Again, we have to address the issue of the hate crimes against the homeless. There's been several more incidents happening again. I don't know what they report to me, and I've tried to report to the police department, but the police saying, well, they have to report them. So I'm kind of at an impasse, and we haven't really resolved the last crimes that happened last year. These are just the new ones. Thank you.
Okay, you know what I'm going to do now. Chief, can you please get with Mr. Allen and resolve those hopefully fairly soon? Perfect. And yeah, can you give an update on what you do now?
I can, and I want to make sure that I'm correct in it. So, Mr. Allen, the crimes you're speaking of last year, you spoke at a council meeting in regards to individuals throwing rocks at some of the individuals that are homeless population. Yes, and that investigation was concluded. Our core unit actually took over it because it consisted of going outside of our jurisdiction to deal with the issue. The individuals that were contacted and sent to juvenile courts are juvenile, so I can't disclose their names, but we did make arrests on 3 individuals in regards to that, so that case was concluded. And I apologize if I did not get back to you in regards to that. I should have. In regards to anything new, I'm not aware of anything new, and what I heard you say was that you are advocating for victims. We should be taking those reports, and we should be making contact with your adult victims. We do have to have a conversation with the adult victims, so great. What I'll do is I'll get in contact with you after this meeting and follow through with that portion of it and make sure we're doing what we're supposed to be doing. We should never be turning away a victim, period. Okay.
So thank you so much, Chief. And Mr. Allen, as I stated last time you brought these to our attention, thank you for bringing them to our attention. And I don't care if you have an address or if you're homeless in our community or a member of our community, we take these crimes, alleged crimes or crimes, very seriously. So thank you so much. All right, this is exciting. We got the president of the board, I think that's his title, from the Turlock Chamber of Commerce. Where's Robert? Hey, how are you? President, chairman, I'm not sure what's exactly.
We'll go chairman of the board.
There we go.
That's
there we
the
go.
official. All right. Good evening, Mayor and council members and all our distinguished guests. My name is Robert Rodarte. I am the local U.S. Bank branch manager as well as chairman of the board for 2017 for your Turlock Chamber of Commerce. For nearly 7 decades, your Turlock Chamber of Commerce has served as a center of commerce for this community. With nearly 400 investors, our membership drive a strong local economy, promote our community, and enable us to provide member benefits and networking opportunities. You may be aware that money spent at a local business generates 3.5 times more wealth for the local economy. If every family in the U.S. spent an extra $10 a month at a locally owned independent business, over $9.3 billion would be directly returned to our economy. That's exciting news. So spend some money locally. It is my honor to present to you our new, so this is new, inaugural, you're the first ones to receive them, our 2017 Turlock Chamber of Commerce renewal decal. As our investors renew their membership in 2017, they will receive this decal, and we ask them to place it on their front window, on their door, at their place of business. So if you see this decal, your chamber logo, please frequent the business, thank them for their support, and encourage others to join the cause. Thank you for your support, your partnership, and for being a Turlock Chamber of Commerce member. And may 2017 be prosperous and for our community and all local business. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much, Robert. Appreciate it. Thank you. All right. Is there anyone else from the audience that would like to address the council on any item not on the agenda? All right. We're going to close public participation. Moving on to motion waiving reading of all ordinances on the agenda except by title.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All right. Motion by Vice Mayor DeHart, seconded by Councilmember Bublak. Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilmember Esquer,
Yes.
Councilmember DeHart,
Yes.
Councilmember Bublak,
Yes.
Councilmember Jacob,
Yes.
Mayor Soiseth.
Yes, motion carries 5-0. Declaration of conflicts of interest and disqualifications, left and right, seeing none. Moving on to item 4C, disclosure of top 10 maximum contributors. Those council members participating have included the top 10 and maximum contributors to their campaign within the agenda. It's available online, or you can see the clerk if you'd like a copy, and she can make you a copy. Moving on to consent calendar, there's been a request to remove 5J from by Mr. Treeweiler for separate consideration. Are there any additional items that would like to be removed? All right, so what's the pleasure of the council?
I'd like to advance the consent calendar.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All right. We have a motion by Vice Mayor DeHart, second by Councilmember Jacob, to pass the consent calendar minus 5J. Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilmember Esquer,
Yes.
Councilmember DeHart,
Yes.
Councilmember Bublak,
Yes.
Councilmember Jacob,
Yes.
Mayor Soiseth.
Yes, motion carries 5-0. Item 5J for separate consideration, approving the purchase of reserved wastewater capacity by Hillmar Cheese Company Incorporated for the dry milk processing facility located at 3600 West Canal Drive pursuant to Turlock Municipal Code Section 641112. Director Cook.
Good evening again, Mayor Soiseth and members of the City Council. So at the Turlock Wastewater Regional Water Quality Control Facility, we have a fixed amount of capacity. That means the amount of wastewater we can treat. So with our industrial customers, what we do is sell them capacity, which guarantees them a right to discharge. And so we've been doing this for the last 30 or 40 years. And we take the money they use when they buy that capacity to make investments at the treatment plant at that time to make sure their capacity is guaranteed. There's a provision in the municipal code and also a city council resolution from 1994 that says if an industry closes down or wants less capacity, they can sell or trade that onto another industry in town. So it's kind of, the way I see it is like seats on a plane. The plane's only so big, we only have so many seats to sell. You can buy 3 seats, and if you don't need them, you can sell your seat to somebody else. The restriction put in place by the city council in the mid-1990s is when you sell that seat, you sell at the price you originally paid for it. So no one can profit from buying or selling wastewater capacity. And the idea with that is at the time when you bought that seat, that was the going price. We took that money, we made the improvements. We're not charging you again the new rate for that same seat or that same capacity. So that's kind of how the program works. It's been used a lot by Blue Diamond, Hillmar Cheese, a number of other people over the years. So a company at D Street doesn't need as much capacity as they thought they did when they opened up. The City of Turlock last month bought that capacity back from them at the price they paid for it, and the Hillmar Cheese is requested to buy that capacity back. So really we're acting as a broker, as a middle person, moving that capacity from one industry to another. So it has no overall impact to the wastewater treatment facility. It's just a reuse of the existing wastewater capacity. So I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Mr. Treeweiler,
Yep.
any questions?
Yes, again, Milt Treeweiler. I'm a Turlock citizen. I was born here in Turlock, and I had a business here for over 40 years. And my concern to the council, the mayor, and the citizens is, we need to understand these things, because I looked at this, And there were just things in here that didn't make sense to me and still do not make sense to me. And what I'm going to do, first of all, we are talking about the waste treatment plant, and we're talking about treating our waste. And I'm looking at this, and we have the purpose of selling wastewater capacity is to ensure the wastewater flows. And I gave each of you a copy of this, and I'm on page 1 of that copy. And this is the pink outlined area. Not to exceed the total wastewater treatment capacity of the treatment plant, which is the RWQCF. Further, this process creates certainty for our industries because they're able to make long-range business decisions. Okay, I can understand that. The portion of this that I don't understand is, if you look at page 2, you see in the yellow where it says Hilmar Cheese Company Incorporated, original capacity totals. In 2015, they bought rights to this total. So my first question to our water director is, how did you come up with these prices? You have a rate of $3,501,870 per million gallons. How did you get that? That was a 2015 price. How did you arrive at that price?
Okay, so the City of Turlock adopts capital improvement fees. So for water, sewer, storm drains, streets, or parks, all that type of thing. So this is the development impact fee. So this is the cost if we add new users, we have to expand the plant. This is the cost of making improvements to the plant at today's prices. So 1 million gallons of capacity would cost us $3.5 million of improvements at the wastewater treatment facility in today's dollars.
Okay. Then my question will be, again, it costs us money to prepare and build the wastewater treatment plant, and it sounds like that's what this money is used for. So again, citizens are also paying that, and this is in our sewer rates, correct? This would be in our sewer rates? This is not in our sewer rates? What are our sewer rates for? Again, I'm trying to help the citizens understand what happens in a city. What are we paying our sewer rates for?
So sewer rates are for operation and maintenance and a little bit of capital replacement, not for expansions to the system. This is for an expansion to the system when you buy new capacity.
So repeat that again. It's for operations?
Operations, maintenance.
Operations, maintenance.
Minor repair.
Okay. So the money that we pay is for operations, maintenance, and minor repair. So the water that's being put into this, or the treatment that's being put into this for the industry, is also going to require that same fee to pay for their treatment and their maintenance of the facility, correct?
So yeah, so in addition to this, every month they pay a sewer user fee, just like you do. That's not on here because it's not to do with their capacity, but they pay a monthly sewer fee on their monthly sewer and water bill, their utility bill.
Okay, I see that. If you look at number 3 on page 3, and I've got it marked in pink, Turlock Municipal Code provides that each industrial user shall pay, in addition to the monthly sewer service charge, a reserve capacity charge. Okay, I can see that. Now, the portion I can't see is, I'm looking at this, and again, help me understand it. We're charging, and I see it like, let's say we're charging price of gasoline. Not the price of gasoline. We're charging rates that were established years ago. So does this include, is this like an assessment that includes repair of the facility? How do we pay for repair of the facility? Not just expansion, but where does the repair money for the facility and also the chemical treatments that are needed for the processing, how does that money arrive at? Where does that money come from?
That's what's in your monthly sewer bill. So the operations and maintenance, repair, that's chemicals, treatment, employees, electricity, regulatory fees, all that stuff is in your monthly sewer bill. So if you want to use your car analogy, you buy the car and then your monthly costs are gasoline, insurance, and that type of thing. So this is capacity is buying the car, and then your monthly sewer fee is the cost of operating and maintaining that car. They're two separate things.
Okay, if I may I ask the city attorney a question? Is this a common thing that occurs with other cities, and is this the way that is this the process that's used to do this? Carry a fee that was established, a fee that was established, say 30 years ago, and carry that fee on even as we have inflation and everything like that? I mean, they already paid the 2015 fee, which is much higher than the fee that they're going to pay if this is approved. So is this a common thing, or the way that this normally works?
So, in terms of fees being established for capital improvements, things like that, these types of fees are very common. It's not uncommon for the council to establish different programs, much like your deferred. I'm not going to say it's analogous. I'm saying that there are different types of programs that the council has established. The council established the historic capacity fee, established the rates for those fees at that time, and adopted a resolution. And the staff has continued to implement that policy along with the Turlock Municipal Code, which talks about the transfer of reserved capacity, whether that's existing reserve capacity or historic reserve capacity.
Okay, the information that's provided here, and that it goes back to page 1, they're apparently taking over the capacity that was the Olivewood LLC, AKA D Street Foods. Well, that's at 680 D Street. I drove by the facility. It's closed. The building is for sale, and it's a very small facility. I can't understand. I don't know what business was in that facility previously, but did they use the water, or what was? Could you please explain that?
I think that's the exact point, right? They're no longer using it, so therefore they're selling their airplane seats, right? That's usually
Before
the
that,
analogy.
it was a Hormel chicken processing plant, and before that it was owned by somebody else. And I can't think of the name of it, but it used to be one of our biggest industrial users. Used to be situated right there. Foster Farms is. It might have been Valkris. I can't remember. Yeah. So there was that one and Foster Farms, and then over time there's been consolidation in the industry. The one closed. D Street Foods took it over. They have a different product they produce. They don't need as much capacity, and so they've sold that back to the city. We've passed it on to Hillmark Cheese at the same price. We're transferring existing capacity.
Well, to the bottom line, this is actually, it's going to be a great savings for Hillmark Cheese. And I'm not saying that's good or bad. It'll actually be a savings of $4,040,000. So a $4 million savings is quite a lot. I don't, if it's not costing us any more, I guess that could be okay, but it just sounds a little bit unusual that they get this $4 million break when they'd already paid for a portion of it, about a quarter of the capacity, at an entirely different rate. I mean, that just, I don't know. I thought there was question there, and I still think there might be question there, but I thank Michael for his explanation. Again, I'm just trying to understand things. I mean, if we're going to be citizens and we're going to be good citizens, we need to come to these meetings and we need to understand what's going on, and it's hard. I worked for 40 years in my business here in Turlock. I didn't have a lot of time. I'm retired now, so now I can spend more time checking these things out, and I'm doing it because I love my city of Turlock. It is the best city in the San Joaquin Valley. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Milt. And I appreciate you asking these questions. You make us a sharper, more focused council. So thank you so much. All right, with that, yes, Councilman Scare.
After looking this over that Milt brought, I had a couple of quick questions too. I understand that if you purchase the seat and then it becomes available again, you can resell it, and you're not gonna make any money on that seat. But is that really practical? Shouldn't there be some way to bring up the value, today's value? Even if you buy something and take it back to the store, most of your stores have a restocking charge. So that's the question, shouldn't there be a way to increase the fee just a little bit so that we do make at least a little money? 'Cause we're buying it back, correct?
Yeah, really what we're doing is acting as a broker, so we buy it back and resell it for the same price. It's a system the city council put in place so that industries aren't selling capacity to each other with no city control over what's going on. So creating that kind of issue. But I do get your point. To me, and I hate using analogies, but the best one I can think of right now is buying a new car versus a used car. Someone paid for this back in 1992, and that was a fair market price at that time. We took that money, made improvements to the facility, we're done. 20 years on, we can't charge them today's prices for something they've already paid for. So just when someone moves into a new house, or a used house, we don't charge them building permit fees, sewer connection fees. That was paid when the house was built initially. You don't pay it over and over and over every time you move into a house. So I know I'm available for Milt or anybody else to talk this through, and I understand it's a difficult subject.
Which is why the assertion that Helmar-Cheese is getting a over $4 million break isn't necessarily, I believe, accurate. So, yeah. Any other questions, Councilman Esquer?
I think that'll take care of it. Thank you.
All right. Any other questions from the council? Any other questions from the public? Yes, please.
Robert Puffer, Augsburg Court. I understand what Mr. Cook was saying about buying a new or used car, but if I buy a new car at one of our dealerships here, I pay sales tax on it. If I sell it to my neighbor 4 years later, he goes down to DMV, they're going to charge him sales tax. So if the one company is relinquishing their water share, why can't the city attach a fee for handling the transaction?
Director Cook, and I have a little input.
Without going through the city of Toronto, I'm sure you could do something like that if you wanted to. This has just been used by the city of Turlock over the years as an economic development tool to encourage food processors and other industries, which are the backbone of our economy.
Yeah.
So we didn't leave it as a profit center for the city, just staff time.
Absolutely, and I won't do any more analogies on airplanes and automobiles and appliances and any of that. I'll talk about wastewater, and the way I view it is we have X amount of wastewater capacity, and when a business like this one on D Street goes out of business, they have a certain capacity, and that's and we have the threshold, and so we want them to be able to take that capacity and move it to a business that needs it, that's continuing to survive, continuing to have jobs here in Turlock. And we are the middleman purposely so that we can monitor what's going on, but we shouldn't be trying to make a profit or increase fees there. That's how I view it, and so that's I encourage you all to meet with Mr. Cook. If you could maybe meet with Mr. Puffer and Mr. Trueweiler to make sure that they're squared away on the concept, that would be great. Any additional questions or comments or conversation, or do I have a motion on this? Okay. Second. All right, we have a motion by Councilmember Jacob, seconded by Councilmember Bublak. But before we call the roll, I do appreciate the questions from Mr. Puffer, Mr. Trueweiler, and from the entire audience. That, like I said, it makes us a better council when you guys ask these questions. So thank you so much. Clerk, please call the roll.
Approving the purchase of reserved wastewater capacity by Helmar-Cheese Company, Inc. for the dry milk processing facility located at 3600 West Canal Drive, pursuant to Turlock Municipal Code Section 641112. Councilmember Esquer,
Yes.
Councilmember Dehart,
Yes.
Councilmember Bublak,
Yes.
Councilmember Jacob,
Yes.
Mayor Soyseth.
Yes, motion carries 5-0. Thank you. And before we move on, I did want to mention that we do have a green sheet for item 5B, which was passed. It's not necessarily substantive, but it did misspell new council member's last name, Esquer, as Mayor Soyseth with Soiseth. I feel your pain on this, so hopefully we'll get it correct in the future. So bring that to everyone's attention. Moving on to final readings, we have none. Public hearings. Item 7A, a request to confirm annexation of 2631 West Tuolumne Road in the Monte Vista Crossings Landscaping and Lighting Assessment District and Street Maintenance Benefit Assessment Area. Dr. Pitcock.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor, members of the council. The item before you is the annexation of the parcel at 2631 Tuolumne Road into the Monte Vista Landscape Lighting Assessment District and Street Maintenance Benefit Assessment Area. This is the triangle parcel at the northwest corner of Tuolumne and Countryside, adjacent to the Petco. On September 12, 2016, MDP 2016-16 was issued to Hall Equities for the development of this parcel. Conditions 54 and 55 of the MDP require the developer to agree to the formation of these districts. The parcel is adjacent to the boundary of the Monte Vista Crossings Landscape and Lighting District, and staff recommends that we annex into the existing district rather than create a new one. The purpose, as you know, the purpose of the assessment districts is to ensure the new development pays for its own maintenance and operation of streetlights, landscape maintenance, street sweeping, and future slurry seals within the district area. Be happy to answer any questions you may have on this item.
Any questions or comments for Director Pitcock? Any questions or comments from the public on this item? Pretty straightforward. Bringing it back to the council, what's the pleasure of the council?
I'll advance, Mayor.
All right, do I have a second?
Second.
All right, we have a motion by Vice Mayor DeHart, second by Councilman Esquer. Clerk, please read back and call the roll.
Confirming annexation of 2631 West Tuolumne Road, 088-026-002, PM 1603, into the Monte Vista Crossings Landscaping and Lighting Assessment District and Street Maintenance Benefit Assessment Area, City Project Number 6308. Councilmember Esquer,
Yes.
Councilmember DeHart,
Yes.
Councilmember Bublak,
Yes.
Councilmember Jacob, Mayor Soiseth.
Yes, motion carries 4-0. Thank you. Moving on to item 7B, a request to amend Turlock Municipal Code Title 4, Chapter 7, Article 14, Section 2 regarding altered speed limits.
Thank you, sir. Again, as you stated, this is the ordinance amendment to Title 4, Chapter 7, Article 14 and Section 2 of our municipal code. And on the 14th of October 2014, the council amended several streets speed limits as part of a citywide review of our speed limits. Some streets that were previously listed in ordinance had their speed limits changed, while the majority of them saw no change at all. The amendments to the speed limits were based on an engineering and traffic survey completed for each street in accordance with California Vehicle Code, Section 40802. The results of these surveys were compiled and speed limits were set based on the 85th percentile. The 85th percentile is the speed at which 85% of the people will drive at that speed or less. So that's a number that traditionally people feel that that's a safe speed to travel. Since the adoption of the amended ordinance, staff has noted one rounding error, and we reevaluated 2 road sections due to limited sight distance due to curves in the road. Tonight, we're recommending changes to lower speed limits for the following segments. Tuolumne Road between Berkeley and Quincy, we would recommend that we lower the speed limit from 40 miles per hour to 35 miles per hour. This was based on the 85th percentile was 37 miles an hour. It should have been rounded down to 35, but unfortunately it was rounded up. So we're recommending we make that change. Countryside Drive between Folkerth and Tuolumne, we're recommending reduction of the speed limit between that section from 40 to 35. A portion of the roadway segment has limited sight distance, and we have several driveways that are entering on these curves. So we feel that reducing the speed limit is warranted in this area from a safety perspective. And again, on same reasoning on Tully Road, West Main Street, from West Main Street to Tuolumne Road, again, reduce the speed limit from 40 to 35, again, from a limited sight distance with vehicles entering on a curve in the road. So I'd be happy to answer any questions that you may have on this item.
Any questions or comments on this item? Yes, Vice Mayor.
Thanks, Mike. I do have a quick question. Is what we're seeing here tonight evidentiary of continuing efforts to monitor and adjust? It seems to me that we do have several other circumstances, not just these 3, where downward modification might certainly be appropriate.
We're always looking to improve safety, and this is directly related to a constituent concern. We did look at the Tully Road, was specifically to a constituent concern. I took it upon ourselves to look at Countryside as well, because it's in the same situation. The other item was regarding the Tuolumne Road. That was just an error that we caught as we were going through and doing our review. But always, if there's concerns, we'd be more than happy to do an analysis, take a look at it from a safety perspective. That you can't arbitrarily lower a speed limit. It has to have some defined reason for that. In this case, it was limited sight distance.
I appreciate that ongoing effort. I guess my biggest concern is I would hate for us to be making adjustments based upon fatalities and accidents. And I think that many times people's perception is we're not going to have any change unless somebody gets hurt.
This
And
is
I-
based on a specific constituent concern. I don't know of any. I don't know of any fatalities nor accidents that occurred that brought this to our attention. This is something that we took the.
By it today. So I got to drive on a lot of the streets up there, and I was surprised, like on Prescott, their speed limit's only 40 miles per hour. And, you know, looking at comparison with our streets, it would have probably been 45. I've heard this 85th percentile mentioned several times, but does that take into effect safety? Okay, what we're doing here is saying if 85% of the people drive at this speed, then that's the speed limit we're going to put it at. But does that mean that those 85% of the people are driving at a safe speed? I mean, it seems kind of contradictory, and that you're saying, and I was shocked even on Stanford, the speed was not that high, and that's a wide road. So I'm not certain if this is, well, I don't know. I'm just not certain that this is a good way to do it, because you're basing it on how fast people drive, not what's safe to drive. I mean, West Main Street, I see people going down in front of me, you know, 50, 60 miles, well, 50 miles an hour. They're just racing by. Well, if that's part of the 85th percentile, and we're using that in the calculation, then that's kind of not a good choice, because we're actually rewarding people who speed. And one other thing, when I had a lot of friends, a friend who had police officers as uncles. So I don't know if you know the House family, but anyway, many of the houses were police officers, lieutenants, highway patrolmen. So I got to talk to them as a kid, and they said, you know, we're not going to ticket you as long as you don't go more than 7 miles over the speed limit. Well, right in front of Osborne School in my duplex yard, there's a speed sign that says 35 miles per hour. I don't know, that must have been the 85th percentile on Osborne School, but it makes no sense to me that we have a speed limit in front of a school of 35 miles an hour. And Soderquist Road is a curve. As you come off West Main Street and turn north, it curves in, and then there's a stop sign at the park there, very close by, and I mean, they just roar through there. I mean, I don't know. I want Turlock to be safe. I don't want to see people dying in accidents or being injured in accidents. And again, that 7 mile thing was, okay, fine, if it's 40 miles, you can go 47 miles. We're not going to give you a ticket. So that's not a good sign. Thank you.
Thank you. Absolutely. We appreciate it. And if you have a trouble spot, if anyone in the community has a spot they feel people are going too fast, this is relatively complaint driven. And so I do want to highlight the fact that you guys heard the community on Tully between West Main and Canal, and looked at that and are altering or bringing that down. I know we've been in communication because I directly engaged with them, but can we make sure that community is also aware? I think there's a single contact person that we've been working with.
Yeah, I'll have to look and find out who that was.
Stacy has it as well, I believe. So,
perfect.
and just let them know that the speed limit is altering. Any other additional question or comments on this item from the audience? Right? Any from the council? Yes, City Manager. Sorry.
Mayor, thank you. If I could just ask Director Pitcock to clarify, school zones are not subject to the 85th percentile.
That is correct. School zones have their own school zone speed limits that we post during normal school hours that the automobiles and all the public have to follow. The 85th percentile is basically set based on a radar study that non-marked, generally it's engineering staff or staff, it goes out in a segment of road. We have to find a a segment of road that is not unique. It has to be kind of the normal segment. We take use a radar, we take the statistical analysis to identify all the speeds during that period of time, and then we take it back and we do the evaluation. And based on the evaluation, we look for the 85th percentile as the mark at which we start from. Now, if there are special circumstances, like this limited sight distance and so forth, we can take that into account, and we're allowed to bring it down 5 miles an hour based on that. The reason 85th percentile was chosen way back when, there were studies done, and what they feel is 85% of the people will drive at a safe and respectable speed. So that's how they're set. They're not. We understand that there's going to be the 15 percenters that are over and above, but that's where we try to get with enforcement. We try to handle that in such a better way through enforcement. But the 85th percentile is how we set our baseline speed limit surveys. Again, as the city manager noted, the school zones have their own regulations.
All right. Thank you for the clarification. Yes, Councilman Esquer.
Yeah, Mike, just for clarification, for Mr. Treeweiler or anybody else, what would be the procedure if they wanted you to look at a particular area?
Just give our office a call. We could take a look at it, and if there's something that's outside the norm, we'd absolutely investigate it. Unfortunately, a lot of times individuals would like their speed limit reduced because there's people speeding. And the problem is people generally drive at a speed at which they're comfortable. And by just lowering the speed limit, it really doesn't do any good. They're still going to drive at that normal speed. Majority of the people get in a car and they drive, and they don't even look at their speedometer. It's one of those things where it's lowering the speed limit it's not a practical way of reducing speed. People are just going to drive at their normal, comfortable levels.
Okay, thank you.
Any other additional comments or questions?
Introduce ordinance.
There it is. Do I have a second? All right. We have a motion by Councilmember Bullock, seconded by Vice Mayor Dehart. Clerk, please call the roll. Or read back and call the roll.
Introducing an ordinance amending Turlock Municipal Code Title 4, Chapter 7, Article 14, Section 02 regarding altered speed limits and setting the final reading for January 24th, 2017.
That's correct. Please call the roll.
Councilmember Esquer,
Yes.
Councilmember Dehart,
Yes.
Councilmember Bublak,
Yes.
Councilmember Jacob,
Yes.
Mayor Soiseth.
Yes, motion carries 5-0. Thank you so much. Moving on to item 7C, a request to adopt legislative findings supporting amendments and changes to the California State Building Standards Code is contained in the Turlock Municipal Code, Title 8, Chapters 1, 2, 5, and 6, and amend Turlock Municipal Code, Title 8, Chapters 1, 2, 5, and 6. Clerk, can you please put the ordinance up on the screen? Mr. Pachano.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor and Council. This is something that most of you had not seen before. It's the adoption of the building code. It's something unique, and it only occurs every couple of years. So to aid you in your consideration of this particular ordinance, I want to give you some basic background of the building code, its basic development process, where it comes from, the changes that we're intending on making to the building code, and with this possible adoption, and a brief update to some of the significant changes within the building code. The California building codes are published on a triennial basis, and the City of Turlock is required by the state of California to adopt the current iteration of the California building code. Some may wonder then, where does the building code actually come from? The base documents for the majority of California's building codes are the International Building Code, National Electric Code, Uniform Mechanical Code, Uniform Plumbing Code. Utilizing these base documents, the California Building Standards Commission conducts code development hearings. At the code development hearings, they take input from building officials, local and state government leaders, developers, contractors, any other interested party has the opportunity to input their comments as to what they believe the building code should look like and whatever it should address. The standards that from these hearings are then produced become the mandatory minimum building requirements for the state of California. That is the building code. At that point in time, about actually the 1st of July, they're automatically adopted for the local jurisdictions by the state. On January 1st, they become our responsibility to enforce. So whether or not we take affirmative action or not, the code as written is ours to enforce. In addition, we are also required to legislatively adopt the building code, which is what we're actually here doing for tonight. A portion of this reason for the adoption process is the city has allowed the opportunity to make limited changes to aid our local enforcement. However, any changes must be more stringent than the requirements as published by the state. The changes must be based on three criteria: local climatic, geological, or topographical conditions. So we do have very limited ability to make a whole lot of changes. So within this adoption, we have two modifications to the code. The first is an item that has been part of our municipal code for many years. It was originally and still is a request of the fire department. The city has a requirement that requires factory-built chimneys and fireplaces to be surrounded with a 1-hour fire-rated construction. Essentially, it's taped gypsum board. It's nothing terribly expensive, and it's easy to do. The second one, it was originally adopted in with the 2013 building code at the request of the building department. As you may know, in 2010, the state of California started requiring that fire sprinklers be installed in all newly constructed houses. At that time, for a fee, the city's fire department was charged with supplying a fire sprinkler design water pressure for the specific individual projects. From that, the fire sprinkler designers utilized that pressure to design for that specific project. And however, that value is only good for 1 year and only applies to that specific project. As municipal services can verify, water pressure varies throughout the day and season, and we've all probably experienced that at one time or another. As they go through this study, and then some person comes on, builds right next door, the adjacent property could actually be designed utilizing a different water pressure. And because it was obtained at a different time, because of the seasonal and daily variations. So if that project was not completed, the original within that noted year, an updated water pressure report would have to be required. This is where things kind of got sticky, and we wanted to make some changes for that. So it actually would be possible to nearly complete a project. It's not uncommon for a project of any caliber to take a year. It could be possibly we would have people be held up from moving into their house because their sprinkler design water pressure was old. It's technical, but it has basis in the California Building Code. So a new water pressure would have to be determined. The original sprinkler design calculations would have to be reviewed by the designer. Again, they'd have to be reviewed by city staff and approved. It all takes time. And assuming no changes were made, they get to move in. If there were design changes made, the existing construction would have to be modified. So in an effort to fix what these are possible conflicts or pitfalls, we came up with an option for the developers. So what we're doing, I coordinated with our municipal services division, and we found that a design water pressure of 40 psi is available throughout the city at any time of the year in any season. In this way, the developer may safely use this 40 psi for their design and or be allowed to get their own individual study if they feel that actually may give them some benefit. And that study still would expire after a year. So that's that's the second change. Now, a significant change that we're making to the building code is the removal of some previous adjustments to the electrical code. I want to kind of highlight these because they're old, and I felt it was a good time to get rid of them at this particular time. The city of Turlock had a special set of standards that did not reference that local climatic, geological, or topographical conditions as required by the state law. And it had been in the municipal code for many years. I have no idea who put it in or how long it had been there, but it had been there, and we were getting regular comments at the building department as to why do you have that? Well, it's in our municipal code. We didn't have a whole lot of reason for it at the time, so I felt it was a good time to take a good review of it. And after I spent some time looking into it, I really haven't found that the California Electrical Code, which is based on the National Electrical Code, caught up with the city of Turlock's special standards. So at this point in time, we're going to eliminate those special standards. The reasoning to create these standards just appears it was probably too conservative at the time. So I think it's a good time to take those out. So what's new with the California Building Code? We're going to call it the 2016 Building Code. It actually starts here on January 1st. Generally speaking, this iteration of the code contains changes which are relatively minor in comparison to a lot of our previous code iterations. However, it's the energy code that we're all going to be a part of and note. There are several changes that need to be mentioned on that. The California Energy Commission has been given a mandate to ultimately meet, and it's called zero net energy. It's something that we'll all be involved in for the rest of our lives. By their definition, zero net energy buildings produce as much energy as they consume, usually through a mix of high efficiency and clean on-site generation. Photovoltaic would probably be the obvious one. It requires that a home create as much energy as it uses over the course of an entire year, not on a real-time basis. Within the energy code changes, in the residential portions, we're seeing a requirement in both the walls and in the roof, what they're calling high performance. Essentially, it's going to require a whole lot more insulation to meet these higher performance standards. The windows will also have to be set for higher performance standards. So this is the requirement that's coming to us through the state of California. Water heating, interesting change here is in new construction, not your house you have now, or a house that you may have some work on, is tankless water heaters are going to be required. The large tank water heater that you see in most people's garages is going to still be allowed in places where it already exists, but all new construction is going to be straight tankless water heaters. In the non-residential, or which we call commercial construction, the standards are very similar to what in the residential regarding the building envelope, the extra insulation in the walls and in the attics. Some other minor issues, doors and windows are going to require lockout sensors in a commercial building, which will turn off the cooling or the heating systems if the door is left open for more than 5 minutes. Which is kind of reasonable. If you had small kids, that actually might even help in your own house. Summarizing. The building code's adopted every 3 years, triennial. We have 2 amendments that we're making, one requiring factory-built fireplaces or chimneys to be constructed with 1-hour protection, allow the use of 40 psi as a design water pressure in lieu of individual pressure studies, and then we're also going to be removing the City of Turlock special electrical standards. So that basically completes my discussion of the code adoption. I can clarify some points for you.
Any questions or comments for Mr. Pachano? All right, any questions or comments from the public on this item? All right, you have anything additional?
No, that's
it. It's pretty comprehensive, I appreciate it.
Resolution or ordinance?
Try to answer.
All right, perfect, yes.
Before we do that,
Vice Mayor DeHart, yes.
I'd just like to get some clarification, Eric, for the benefit of those of us that are not quite as absorptive of detail as are you. I just kind of like to understand a little more completely on a net out basis what this means in terms of cost for a new home. In other words, if we've got somebody going in, or for a remodel, or for tenant improvements, or for, and perhaps even more practically for tenant improvements, I think we've got a lot of folks that come into building who have tenant improvements that they need to make in order to make a shell functional for their business. Can you net out what the impact? Obviously, it depends on what the TIs are, but do you anticipate? I'm concerned that we not set up conditions whereby all of a sudden, what yesterday cost $2 today costs $20. Do you care to comment on that?
Essentially what it is the state of California forcing our hands on this. It's all about the Energy Commission's requirements that have been come through the state legislature. And yes, absolutely every one of these things cost. When I was referring to additional energy, additional insulation, there's an extra cost for that. So all these changes that are coming through in this energy code do have cost to them, and that's actually why I wanted to bring it up to you, so you have the information. When somebody asks you, it's like, well, this is not what I built last year. It is true, because these are coming not from the basic code of safety, but these are coming from the energy side requirements that are actually legislatively adopted. And the idea of zero net energy is what they've been mandated, the Energy Commission is mandated to ultimately use. So your house that you will buy, and 2020 is the goal, by the way. So the next iteration of the code is going to be more stringent yet, as far as what's going to be required. I do know of some legislation that has started that is considering the idea of ultimately requiring solar panels placed on houses as part of their construction. At the same time, I do know the development industry is not going to be very happy about that and is probably going to do their best to eliminate that. So it's really these are costs, and the development community is not very happy with them. However, it's the direction that they've been given by the state of California.
Well, I'll just share with you what caused my ears to perk up as I considered the fact that many of the plans that we end up receiving downstairs, we can handle on an expeditious basis. We hear this on a monthly basis. We've got so many % of plans that are handled and approved and permits issued on an expedited basis. Those ones that are not, either because of complication or because of workload, that are sent to outside contractors. It seems to me I'd like a little more assurance from somewhere that our developers, our architects, our ratepayers, whatever you'd like to classify them as, are not being and are not encountering unnecessary roadblocks to the completion of their project, let alone additional expense if unnecessary. I mean, do we have assurance that all of these contractors that we have, and prudently so, are marching to the same drummer that we are?
That is actually one of the functions we do when we review their comments. We try to make sure that they are following our standards, because every community does have their own standards. We don't want to be comparing ourselves to, say, a North Bay Area community that has high standards related to energy use, when we're just going to take what the municipal code is the minimum standards as by the building code. These two items that I've added to the building code are minor in comparison to what I've seen, say, Bay Area communities add. They can add quite a bit to them, but that's part of that community's makeup and that community's desire. Our idea here is to meet the minimum building code as given to us by the state of California. And when I utilize the private companies that do the plan reviews for us, when those plans come in, we do actually do a review of them, and we have conversations with them as to how they're being helpful with the customer versus more of a roadblock, because we really don't want roadblocks. As there are occasions that somebody may get the impression that they have a roadblock, but at the same time, not knowing the specifics of code sometimes can cause somebody that's really not a part of the development process some consternation. And I see that on a regular enough basis to know that it exists, and I try to alleviate that whenever possible.
And I don't want to prolong our discussion, but I think you know where I'm headed. Are we in harmony, or at least on the same page of music, with Merced and Houston and Newman Patterson? And
Absolutely.
Okay, so Modesto's doing the same thing, and they're getting the same standards that do exceed what the California state does. It's not just Turlock.
As one of the opportunities that the city has given me, through your permission, is I'm a member of an organization called the California Building Officials, and we meet rather regularly, actually in Modesto, of which I'm going to be the vice president starting this Saturday.
Congratulations.
So part of the purpose of that organization, which actually goes from San Joaquin County down to Madera and to the foothills and over to the Coast Range, that we try to ensure that we are all producing or all managing the code in the same way. We actually have specific conversations regarding specific items, because we don't want to step out on our own or just raise a red flag on our own.
Yeah, absolutely.
I really appreciate this, Eric, and I'm not doing it in opposition to you or policy as much as I am attempting to set the stage for the fact that this is in fact something that we and neighboring municipalities are doing together to ensure uniformity. This is not a willy-nilly decision on the part of Turlock. This is not something that we encounter as a result of our contractors. This is something that we have in fact taken on in agreement and cooperation with our brethren and sister in the trades in city halls around the county to ensure that there is common understanding, common standards. And so I'd like to thank you for your efforts. This is helpful. Thank you.
I appreciate that, Councilman.
And I would second the motion.
All right. Any additional discussion? All right. We have a motion by Councilmember Bublak, second by Vice Mayor DeHart for both the resolution and ordinance. Clerk, please read us back.
For the resolution adopting legislative findings supporting amendments and changes to the California State Building Standards Code as contained in the Turlock Municipal Code, Title 8, Chapters 1, 2, 5, and 6, introducing an ordinance as listed up on the screens regarding the amendments to the Turlock Municipal Code, and setting the final reading for January 24th, 2017. I'll give you all just a moment to read that if you'd like. Councilmember Esquer,
Yes.
Councilmember DeHart,
Yes.
Councilmember Bublak,
Yes.
Councilmember Jacob,
Yes.
Mayor Soisek.
Yes, motion carried. Resolution and ordinance carried 5-0. Thank you. Thank you
Thank
so
you,
much, Eric. All right, moving on to item D, a request to add Turlock Municipal Code Title 6, Chapter 5, Article 3, Section 4, entitled Excessive Water Use Targets and Penalties, Title 6, Chapter 5, Article 3, Section 5, entitled Appeal, and Title 6, Chapter 5, Article 3, Section 6, entitled Appeal Hearing Request, and adopt an excessive water use target and establish a penalty. Garner, you're up. Mr. Reynolds.
Thank you, Mayor. As you stated, the item for you tonight is to consider adopting excessive water use targets and penalties. A little bit of background on this. In February 9th, 2016, City Council did approve a concept in general of the water use targets and penalties and directed staff to come back with a formal plan and implementation of the concept. Since then, staff has been working diligently to develop a meaningful excessive water use targets and penalties. However, this has proven somewhat problematic, and because of this, regardless of the target, there's a potential of disparate impacts between customer classes and within the customer classes. For example, our industries. We have dry industries and wet industries, so setting a standard for them would be very problematic based on that. Therefore, we focus solely on single-family customers who appear to be making little or minimal effort to use our water resources efficiently. I would like to make one side note that this is a separate program in addition to our existing water conservation program, and that this program is targeting excessive water use. The purpose of this program is to reduce the excessive use of our precious resource and to encourage efficient use of it, and also to comply with Senate Bill 814 to identify and discourage excessive water use. Senate Bill 814 requires local agencies to identify and discourage excessive water use and applies to residential customers only. Senate Bill 814 provides that water suppliers are required to do one of two things: establish a rate structure that includes water budgets or rate surcharges for excessive water use, or establish an excessive water use ordinance. The proposed excessive water use targets and penalties align with alternate number 2 for Senate Bill 814. If a water supplier elects to adopt an excessive water use ordinance, the water supplier must set a definition for excessive use in terms of gallons or hundreds of cubic feet of water used based on the local factors. So taking that into consideration, we looked at our local factors, and this is a chart of the average winter and summer use for the last 3 years. We don't have 2016, we don't have complete data for that. And as you can see, the usage is moving in the right direction. We're seeing consumption dropping. If you look at the 2015 numbers, for the average usage, we're seeing about 13,000 gallons per month. And if you look at the summer usage, they're averaging, that's your summer highest demand or peak summer months, of 16,500 gallons per month. So keep that in mind as we move through and I get to the staff recommendation. In addition to that, we looked at, in 20,000 gallon increments, the number of residential customers that would exceed a target. And looking at those incremental demands and looking at the averages, on the right column you can see that in general for the 40,000 gallons per month or exceeding that, There's approximately 1,600 customers that would have exceeded that during our peak demands during the summer. So here's staff's recommendation. We recommend that you consider setting a target at 40,000 gallons per month. Sorry, GPM always gets me on gallons per minute. And setting a penalty of $25 for exceeding that target. And this would be automatically assessed on their water bill on a monthly basis. This would apply only to single-family residences. And if at any time a customer desires to discuss the established target because they feel it is not appropriate for them, the city staff will work with the customer and perform an audit and set their target accordingly. In addition to that, staff's recommending that we conduct an annual review of the program in conjunction with our annual review of our water rates. So the main question is, how do we arrive at the 40,000 gallons per month? The staff, like I said in the previous charts, we did look at our historical use and our customer use patterns and looked at that to determine what's the average use during a peak summer months, and that was approximately 16,500 gallons per month, as I mentioned. Therefore, looking at this target, it's just a little bit under irrigation of your landscape, using approximately 5 gallons per square foot for landscaping. So even in a 12-person home, it does allow for approximately 4,400 square feet of landscaping, basically like a 44-foot wide by 100-foot yard for landscaping. Therefore, the target does provide a reasonable amount of water use and is not considered overly burdensome. And the goal of the program is to reduce our excessive water use and to help the city meet our peak demands and to help stabilize those water pressures. Currently, we are seeing water pressures in the summer months drop down in the low 40s and sometimes below that. Therefore, looking at that, it does provide an opportunity for the beneficial use of our resource and efficient use of it, extends availability of our limited resource, helps to lower our peak demands during our summertime, reduce the need for oversizing our infrastructure. And one last point I'd like to make is looking at our summer usage and our winter usage, we estimated for 2015, during our winter months, December, January, and February, we're looking at approximately 70 customers per month had this been implemented at that time, and about 1,600 customers during the summer months. Now, on an annual average, though, it's only about 3%, if you look at that as an annual average. However, with conservation and with this program, we anticipate those numbers to drop. We've seen it already with our average summer usage and our winter usages that those numbers are dropping considerably. So we expect that that number would decline over time. With that, that concludes my presentation. I'll be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Absolutely. Any questions or comments for Mr. Reynolds? Yes, we'll start at the end. Councilman Esquer.
Yes, Mayor, council members. I do have a little problem with finding people for things. I realize sometimes it's necessary, but I'm concerned that we have smart meters, correct? So what I was told is that you can identify a leak in somebody's home. You can identify when the leak started, how long it's been going or something like that. My concern is somebody has an older house. You got pipes under the house. You have a leak. You may not know it. It could go on for a month, 2 months, and you may not even know you're leaking. Okay, so you exceed the 40,000 gallons. Is there a way to issue a warning before we slap a $25 fee on these people?
It's something we could consider. One thing that we do as part of our program is we do send out leak detection notices that when we do see that in their customer accounts, we try to, on a monthly basis, do send those notices out to customers, and it has been helpful. But we could consider if that's council's wish, that we would do a warning first and then a citation. Also, if a customer has identified that they've had an issue, maybe they had a water line burst on their property and they were gone and they didn't notice it, and they can go through an appeals procedure. In that appeals procedure, we would hold the fine. We wouldn't issue that until we worked through that, determined if that was the case, then we could waive that. We would err on the side of caution. We wouldn't just be something that we would just automatically not even listen to what they're saying. You come to us, it's reasonable, we would understand, and we would take that into consideration. We'd err on the side of caution. We do that with our current water conservation program. If they come in and they have a reasonable reason as to why at this point in time they did unfortunately have their sprinklers on, we do take that into consideration, and we try to err on the side of caution. It's not to be overly burdensome on the fines. That's why we did have initial process for council with a $25 fine.
I think we need to take a step back too and see where this originated, and I think that the intent is not to pat our coffers with the $25 fines from these people. The intent is for compliance. The intent is for people to find those leaks, bring down their consumption rates, and educate. I mean, even this, we've learned a lot over the past couple summers with this drought of having our people go out and inspect and work with residents. Sometimes, you know, you see sprinklers on at odd hours of the night, and neighbors get frustrated, and it ends up being a senior citizen who may have lost their partner and doesn't know how to work their actual controls. And so we've worked with them. We don't slap a fine on right away. And so that's something that I think we need to keep in mind, that there's a robust appeals process, and we're going to err on the side of caution. And the last resort would be the $25 fine. But yeah.
Right, and if you look at this, it's realistically, it's about 3% of the customers, and that should drop over time. What we're really looking at is those customers that we had over last Friday when we had the rainstorm that was hitting, and we still caught 14 people with their sprinklers on, and that was just one person driving around for a few hours.
Right.
And that's what we're really looking for. We have customers that are using water in well in excess of 100,000 to 200,000 gallons a month.
Right.
And that's what we're looking for.
And that was my concern, is that there is some kind of little cushion, so maybe a warning. And you said you do issue notices?
This isn't proposed as a warning? If that's
No, but I
something
mean,
council-
you said you do issue warnings or notices if you find a leak or detect a leak?
We send a postcard to the customers through our electronic metering system, that if we've identified that they've had water use for 24 hours for a 7-day period, apparently at some point in time your water use should go to zero when everybody's asleep in their home and nothing's running. So the toilet could be leaking, or if they have a sprinkler valve leaking. So we identify customers on a routine basis, and we send them a postcard letting them know that we've identified a potential water leak on their property, and to either contact us or to see if there's something we can help them with.
Okay.
Yes. Councilmember Blue Black.
Just a couple questions. In regard to the 1,183 people that would be potentially fined, is there a way to market to them and give them a heads up that we noticed that they've exceeded previously, and so they should be more cautious, so that at least we're trying to school people on what's about to happen, and as well on piggybacking on the thought before, we've done previously where we give the, traffic school online or whatever, so water school, if you will. I mean, as a first time to get them to realize what they can do to make some alterations. So, I mean, that seems logical that we should implement that into this concept as well. So are we gonna market people? Are we gonna tell people what's going on?
We'll get out ahead of this with some education. We're not going to just, if approved by council, we wouldn't just immediately implement this program. It would be implemented in time, and we would get out ahead of that with like we did with our water conservation. When we changed the watering schedule from 2 days a week to one, we give a grace period. We get out in front of that. We get the public education campaign going, and we send utility bill notifications out. And we'll do the same with this program. We'll get that notice out there. Unfortunately, there'll be some customers that may feel they didn't know about it, but we'll do the best we can. Like we do on our water rates, we reached out 27 different ways of getting the message out. We'll be hitting Facebook. We'll be the newspaper, any people that have direct emails, anything we can do to get that message out, to notify them ahead of that. What was the second point you asked about?
Specific targeting the 1,183 people. Obviously, we want to be target specific. I mean, there's people that are underneath it. We can just generally tell them, but I think it's if we can do it, social media, things of that nature, so that they have a heads up that they're right there at the cusp. It's my understanding that most of these are closer to the 40 than 50, 60,000 consumption. No.
There's a bulk of customers that are well below the 40,000 gallons per month, and so those wouldn't. Which what you're saying, the roughly 1,600 accounts that are over the 40,000 gallons per month, we could identify those, but there's gonna be some variability month to month because they might be just over it a little bit. And one thing that was brought to my attention was a great idea by our director, which was there's gonna be a lot of customers that might be right on that cusp, that we could give them some tips and tricks on how to get below that 40,000 gallons per month, and it might be as easy as reducing your sprinkler timer by 1 or 2 minutes. If you're watering 8 to 10 times a month, you reduce a couple minutes, you're going to drop several thousand gallons right off the top, and that'll help you get under that 40,000 gallons per month. So those are definitely things that we can consider, and that's the subject matter that our director brought up, that we're going to try and do that. Get the tips and tricks out there to help people figure out ways they can reduce their conservation, get that education out there to help them reduce their water use.
And then the other part was the water jail, if you will. You go online and you get out,
Oh, yes,
get on
yes, yes.
probation or something like that.
That wasn't as part of this. We do that as a water conservation program. We give them opportunity. We can consider that if you would like to. It's similar to a warning. If that's council's direction, we'd be more than willing to do that.
Any other comments or questions? Yes, just Councilman Jacob.
Okay, so the 1,600 out of approximately how many total accounts do we have?
You're referring to the, you go back.
Yeah, because you're averaging the summer and winter, but in the summer, I'm trying to figure out what
The
percentage
summer
of the water
accounts is
users.
1,600.
Out of, is that
Out of
16,000?
16,000,
So
approximately 16,000.
actually, during the summer, we would be finding 10% of our customers.
During this data run for 2015, it would, yes, correct, that would be
Okay.
10% of the accounts.
I have a lot of heartache there. I think that 10% of our customers being fined is going to result in a whole bunch of feedback for all of us up here, and it seems like too many of our customers off the bat to be fining, especially when you consider there's people on fixed income, senior citizens, lower income people that $25 doesn't sound like a lot, but multiply that by 1,600, it's 40,000 a month. It doesn't seem seems a little too high. How are we identifying whether those are single families? How do we know that?
Their meter account, when they set their water service up, we set up based on their use, their customer class, whether single family, multifamily, commercial, industrial.
So they self-identify when they're creating their account?
Yes, we know which ones are the single family accounts.
Okay. In your opinion, do you think this is going to help Turlock meet the state targets in any way?
I think it will. Currently, we're doing really well on meeting our conservation, but this is a separate program than water conservation. This is for those excessive use customers that are doing little to really conserve water. If you look at customers who are using 100 and 200,000 gallons a month, I really don't think they're looking to conserve water. And so this is a separate program. We're still going to have our water conservation program with education and outreach and fines and penalties, and this is going to be a separate program to help us meet Senate Bill 814, which requires us to implement something in this nature. And it's up to council's discretion on where they like those targets and penalties. But this is also a program to help us. We're having a difficulty already meeting our peak demands. Fortunately for water conservation, that is helping us at this point in time. And we did analysis where we took the total water use by each account that was in excess of 40,000 gallons for 12 months and determined how much water that was, and it was 81 million gallons of water that was in excess of the 40,000 gallons per month. And if you run the numbers on that and you do what would be the infrastructure necessary to deliver that water, and it's basically half of a well, we really can't install half a well, so you're looking at about $1.5 million to put in a well just to provide this excessive water use. And that's another approach we're looking at. But the 40,000 gallons a month will kind of put that in perspective. Your average customer is using 16,500 gallons during summer peak demands. And it's those, really it's the top 1%, 2%, and 3% that really aren't looking. We're looking at them because they really aren't trying very hard to minimize and use the water resources efficiently. But there may be some reasons on some of the accounts that they have a valid reason for why they do exceed that, and we're willing to look into that and consider that. And if council would like to consider other options as far as the targets, that is another reason why I have, let me find it. That graphic I did there. If you want to look at other targets, you could consider that if you wanted to.
Any other?
Yeah, if I can continue, I think that it's not the top 1%, 2%, or 3%. It's actually the top 10%. So I don't know. I also don't think that that's very prudent to find somebody that's using 100,000 gallons the same as somebody that's maybe using 41,000 gallons. If you're so I think that there's probably a better way to approach this. I'm not really sure, and talked to the city manager previously about maybe doing some kind of a phase-in. Maybe that needs to be done in a tier, but I wouldn't feel comfortable with putting it at the 40,000. If you just look at the difference, the slide that you have right there between 40 and 60,000, that's 875 less customers that we're going to be penalizing. I know that that's a lot of water that's being used, but if it's not necessarily going to help us meet state targets, it's just something we're doing out of obligation because of the Senate bill that you referred to. I would rather not have 10% of our water customers angry because they see an additional fine on their water bills every month.
Who wants next? Yeah, Council or Vice Mayor DeHart first, and then we'll make our way back. Yeah.
Thanks, Mayor. I find this whole topic fairly troubling from a couple of different standpoints. Number one, whether it's 16,000 or 40,000 or 10,000 or 100,000, it's really immaterial. Those are water wasters. We're not addressing the issues that are before us if we're using those amounts of water. I'm not going to brag on Mr. Treeweiler, but I will join him in this particular effort. I've been tracking my own personal usage since January of 2014. And I got to tell you, folks, we start talking about 10% of users at 16,000 gallons. Let me tell you, January 2014, I used 1,424 gallons in the month. I paid $22.05. This is a fairly consistent record. In December, bill due in December 16th of 16, I used 1,711 gallons. I was a bit spotty in late or mid 14. But I got to tell you, this is not that difficult. We're not talking about turning it off. We're not talking about excessive use. We're talking about responsible use. I got to tell you that when the media published pictures about the council members in Modesto and how their landscape looked, I was frankly scared to death. I said, oh my gosh. I mean, I don't have a great looking yard to begin with, but I turned my water off because I thought I could at least beat Modesto. Thank God for weeds, I got to tell you, because it does season it with a little bit of green. But folks, look, at $25, I've been paying $25 for the last 3 years. I'm a senior citizen. I've minimized my expenses. I'm not happy about this particular discussion. This is just not right. This is not appropriate. If we want to encourage use, this is the least we can do. $25? Give me a break. This is just not. I could submit this and second it, vote it and pass it all by myself. This is just not right. $25? Give me a break. We cannot continue. And unless you've drunk crappy water out of a canteen in the middle of a desert, you don't know what I'm talking about. But if you don't have the water to drink, it's kind of difficult to unparch your throat. I have enough water for laundry. I have enough water for running the dishwasher. My wife thanks me for taking a shower once a month. Week. And food preparation. This is not an advanced degree consideration. Let's knock down the 16,000. Really? I'm 1/10 of that. We don't need to be operating on. If somebody would like to see my 3 years worth of records, I'd love to share them with you. It's just not that difficult to do. There is a responsible way to do it. I recommend highly that we proceed with this particular item on our agenda this evening and somehow figure it out. But this is not cool. This is no longer cool to me. I'm very upset about the fact that we can't get this under control. $25 for abuse, cheap at double the price.
Absolutely. To jump in, I echo Councilman DeHart's comments. I couldn't have said it better.
Bathing once a week?
Yeah, I'm bathing more than once a week.
Okay, you're really
but absolutely, and I think the seriousness needs to be there. I think we are forgetting that there's a robust appeals process. So the idea that we're going to penalize large families and people with extenuating circumstances of leaks is false. That's not going to happen. We're going to make sure that staff exercises every right to make sure that we don't penalize these individuals, and if need be, it'll come to council. And then, second, we have been in robust, aggressive discussions with the state about trying to secure our water and trying to convince them that we are conserving our way out of this drought as much as possible, but that we need additional help. And so when we are splitting hairs on this idea that these excessive users, which is what they are in the middle of the summer, and we're not going to notify them and penalize them at $25 and then still give them appeals processes to try and fix the situation, but we can't come down on a solution. I think that that's just wrong, and it undermines our argument to the state when we are trying to get additional water resources in our area. And so, Councilman DeHart, I couldn't have said it better, and I appreciate your comments. Councilman Scare.
First question, where's the $25 going?
Mr. Reynolds?
Yes, sir. So that goes into the water fund where it's generated from currently, as the fines and penalties are. And,
Okay.
you know, hopefully the intent is that we could use that money for maybe a future program for low-income affordability. That's an opportunity for that. That's been brought to my attention several times, and something we're looking into. So there might be an opportunity we could help some of the people that are having a difficult time paying their utility bills.
But it won't be spent without council approval.
Definitely.
Correct.
That
There
will
we
be
go.
coming back before council for your authorization at a future date.
Correct. Okay. Yes.
And I understand the sentiments. I understand there's water usage. I understand that we need to cut back, conserve. I try to conserve as much as I can. $25 to anybody up here is probably not a lot of money, but there's a good portion of people out there where $25 a month is a lot of money. So I kind of don't want to shove them under the bridge just because, you know, we can afford $25. Okay. Some of those people, it's going to be tough. And they are also senior citizens, and they don't make as much money as we do. They're on fixed incomes, so I don't want to make that an issue. I understand we need to conserve. I understand we need to find a way to do it. I have no problem. I think 40,000 gallons is a lot of water, but you know, if that's what you're recommending, I can live with that. The question I had on the $25 was, I just want to make sure that people are able to have a warning before they get hit with the fine. And you discussed the appeals process, and that's fine. Just how many people out there that get hit with that $25 fine are just going to pay it and not worry about, you know, not go through the appeals process because they don't want to deal with us, you know? So these are the issues that I'm looking at. So it's not that it's an excessive amount of money or a minimal amount of money. It's just the fact that I think people should be warned before they're hit with a fine. That's my concern, okay?
Currently as proposed, and I'm just, so council, I'm clear with council on it, it would be something that would be automatically assessed on their next water bill, but now what I'm hearing from council is you prefer that we actually give a warning notice before we assess it, and on the next time that happens is when you would want us to impose the fine. I just want to make sure that when we go to look at this, I want to get clear direction on that.
We can add that as a potential amendment to what's here, but we'll address that individually as a council. Yes, Councilmember Black.
Have we opened it?
No, not yet. We've stuck. Would you like to open to public yet?
Going for long.
All right, we're going to open it to public comment now. Sorry, thank you for listening to us. Is there anyone in the public that would like to address the council? Yes.
Bill, you make me laugh.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're
I'm Mary
welcome.
Jackson. The one thing I would like, and I know I spoke with former managers about this, I don't know exactly where the $25 can go, but maybe that can go into a fund to help people who have trouble paying their water bill. And I don't know if you can legally do that because I know there's very strict rules, but that's something I know. Gil, I understand your concerns for your constituents, but Bill, you were spot on. Thank you. And I'm glad you take a bath once a week. I know your wife appreciates it.
It's actually every other day, Mary.
Okay.
Forgive me, Mayor.
Perfect. And we will-
Yeah, but I don't know. That's something I always was concerned about, as well as power, the electric bills, our city electric bills. There needs to be some type of fund to help people who do have, and if I could see those of us who have more and use more could help those of us who do not.
Absolutely, and I think TID, who has the electric bills, they have programs for those that are on fixed incomes, and they work there. And I think that we should separate this topic about the fines and what to do with that money, because without council action, we can't spend it on anything. That'll be a discussion for a later date. Let's get past hurdle one. Did you have something, or do you want to? Oh, yes.
I just wanted to add one thing. I'm not in disagreement with anything that any council member or member of the community has said on this thing. I am a senior on a fixed income. One of the ways in which I have been able to control my expenses is to reduce my water use. I have gone from $22.17 to $22.48, or whatever those silly, ridiculous numbers are, on a monthly basis for the last 3 years. It's not that difficult. If you want to conserve, let's talk. Yeah, there's some downside, but it's not that difficult.
Anyone else? Anyone else from the public on this item? I'm not baiting you, Mr. Truweiler, but I'm surprised you're silent on this one. But we'll let it be. All right, we'll bring it back to the council for further consideration. Yes, Councilmember Bublak.
Okay, I'd like to introduce the ordinance and the resolution. I'd also like to add that the first offense would be a computer warning. They go online and fix it up like we have it with the other. Would like also to include that you're going to do marketing on them for the first month, at least the people that you anticipate are all going to be violators if possible. I want everybody, but those people specifically if possible. And then after the first month of June, which is one of our target months, if it's possible, to come back in July sometime and let us know so we can start to see if just giving them a heads up helped, and or if we're just making our complaints go through the roof and we're not getting anything done. So if we can bring it back at that point, and that would be all part of my ordinance and my resolution, if you will.
Okay, I'm going to spit back what I heard real quick. So, as is with 3 amendments, this is what I boiled down, and I want to ask the feasibility of this, is that there would be a computer-generated notification to the excessive user, so a warning first by computer generation, is that what you're saying? Is that possible?
I don't know that we could, not everybody signed up for email, so we wouldn't be able to email everybody because of that purpose. We would have to probably be included in a water bill, so it'd be a notice on that water bill, would say, warning, you have exceeded that, and then let them know the next month, if you exceed it, you would then be fined. So we can include a tagline on the water bill.
Would that be sufficient? Is that what you're getting at?
Except for the part where you're saying warning, you'll be fined, then they have the option of going through a class online to learn how to do water better before we actually take the $25. Isn't that what you're doing with?
Similar to the water conservation program?
Exactly.
That wasn't part of it tonight, but if that's council's direction, we can do that.
Mr. Mayor.
Yes.
May I weigh in? I think we can achieve Councilmember Bublak's vision on this if the council's inclined. I will tell you, administering warnings creates a huge administrative issue because there's a lot of debate on whether or not a person received a warning. And I do think, though, that clearly first-time non-compliance can be deferred to an education program or choose to pay their $25. They have a choice. And then subsequent violations, they're not eligible for the education campaign. That's much cleaner to administer for staff, for first-time non-compliance, to offer them the alternative to sit down and review a video for an hour online or whatever it may be, or a half an hour, or whatever the education component is, and they're not eligible for that for subsequent non-compliance.
Absolutely. So it's in essence, it is a warning when you get the $25 because you'd have a way out of it. It wouldn't cost you because you could do this online education program. Would that sufficient?
I would second that.
Okay, so we're good on that. Clerk, it's writing feverishly. The second part was you wanted to try and notify the highest users. I'm assuming the 40,000 plus users.
I don't know if that's feasible.
So that,
I mean,
so
if
that.
we just sent something out for one, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
If we just sent something out for the first month and waited and just said, hey, everybody, this is about to happen. I mean, I just want to target everyone so that we can't have these people saying, we didn't know. I mean, no, not everybody's watching this right now, right? So if we can at least do that, I don't want to make it so much work for staff that you guys are buried on this. I just want us to try our due diligence.
Actually, that's relatively straightforward. We've done it in the past. When we moved to metered billing, we sent higher water users like a fake bill that said, we got metered billing coming in, and for 3 or 4 months we did that. If you keep using water at this rate, your bill will go from this to this. So through the programs we have, we could probably send out 1,000 letters a month for a couple of months to those high water users, say you've used this much, you'd be subject to a fine. And hopefully read those and understand those, but it's a good way to direct market to people. So that is feasible.
Is that what That's meeting your intent. Okay, it's meeting your intent, and then you also, I agree with this one actually. Instead of a year review, doing it could be a 6-month review, or we could do 9 months to get capture after the summer if you'd like. So you're trying to assess the effectiveness of this program after the summer, correct?
That,
Or
not
was it-
necessarily after, but perhaps in the middle. I don't know how convoluted it is, but I mean, we want to see if we're hitting it. We also obviously want to be hitting our target from what the state's giving us too. So I mean, if we're way off, we don't want to wait till, September, because then we're going to be really messed up.
So how about no later than September 1st, and we can leave the discretion of the city manager so we can gauge the effectiveness, or would you like to give a date to it?
That's fine.
Okay, can we do that, city manager?
May I request an
Absolutely,
amendment?
we will target September 1st, but if we see signs of ineffectiveness, we will do the assessment.
Absolutely. And by no means these are going in as amendments. Only the first one's been seconded. I'm trying to clarify your thoughts. Yes.
Can we at least take into consideration maybe setting a different level for the winter and summer months so that it's not capturing this very small percentage during the winter, effectively becoming useless and taking in too high of a percentage during the summer? Can we look at that? Maybe make it lower during the winter. I would be fine with that, and make it a little bit higher during the summer.
Do you have comments on that one?
I just have a question on that. Garner, do you have any way of confirming whether or not it's...
See, typically our excessive water use customers majority of them being repeat customers.
I get the fact that people may ultimately say, I can afford it, I'm just going to pay it. That's not what we're talking about here. We do have some mandates that we have to comply with.
And the 40,000 is a already generous number. You put it out there in a lot of ways, and I get your point of 41,000 versus a 80,000 person. But to be honest, if we're doing this program like you said, and they're notified with a $25 fine, but they're able to educate themselves, and they can actually make those fixes and implement them, they should be able to drop down past that. If they're within the 5,000, 10,000 margin, if they're at 50,000, dropping that 10,000 should be able to happen. Now, if they're well above that, then this is a different story. It's talking to the person. They're literally just ignoring us. So, yeah.
To accommodate what Councilmember Jacobs speaking about, I think when we look at it after September, we can see that both the non-high usage and then the summertime, and ascertain if there needs to be a tiering to get us where we need to be. If that's an acceptable compliment.
Part of our recommendation to staff, or to council, was that we do an annual review as part of our water rates, which is in the fall. And we can bring that information back to you at that point in time, and then we can annually assess that if council would like to make changes at that point in time, once we bring back the information we're requesting for in September.
Absolutely, yeah. Because for me, I think I'm pretty strong on the 40,000. I don't know. That's where I think it needs to be, and then we can review it at the end. Any other? So with that, I definitely lost my place. So we have the way the process would be, they would be notified if they're an excessive user, and they would get a $25 fine, but that they would be eligible to go through a water education program. That's acceptable. Councilman Esquer,
That's acceptable.
you seconded that as an amendment. Okay, we're going to build on this, right? And then after that, it's continuing to be a $25 fine. This appeals process will remain throughout, correct? I mean, that will be something because we wanted to troubleshoot that. So that's here. And then notification of the highest users. You think that is feasible? So you would like to do that, Councilman Esquer. Would you like to second that?
I second that.
Okay, that part. All right, and then a review no later than September. Well, if we're gonna review it during the rates, and what month is that going to be?
Usually it's October.
October.
Right.
Is that too late for you?
Usually
Councilmember?
it is September,
Yes.
first part of October, we bring in our consultant and review the rates.
We're going to do a separate review no later than September 1st.
You got it.
At the discretion of the city manager, because you're going to look at the effectiveness. You're going to be monitoring this every day to check.
Every day.
That's it.
I have staff that will certainly do that.
Absolutely. So that was the next one. Councilman Esquer, do you second that amendment?
I second
All
that.
right, got it. So those three things, are there any, built on what's currently proposed here, are there any additional, yes, Councilman Esquer?
Just want to clarify, the main thing was getting hit with the fine right off the bat. I don't have a problem fining people that are abusers. In fact, I wouldn't have any problem making it 30,000 gallons, okay? Because I believe we need to conserve water. It's just the fining part that had the issue with, okay?
Okay, Perfect. All right. So, built off of the ordinance and resolution that's here, we have those three amendments that have been motioned and seconded. Clerk, do you want to attempt to read that back to us, which is why we do this, to see what exactly we're voting on?
Let me confirm.
And so you guys listen up
before I incorporate
close,
that
yeah.
as part of. So, we will be introducing the ordinance. I will reread that information, but to include the following amendments. So we will have a notification or a warning notice for those that have exceeded the 40,000 gallons. And then we will have a first-time non-compliance offered with an educational component. And then we will have a report to council in September regarding the implementation of the excessive water use targets and penalties. Am I missing anything?
The one clarification on the very first part is as of today, those that have exceeded that. So we're not going to continue to do warning letters as it proceeds. Does this make sense? So when you go in today, is that making sense? No?
I think we have it. What the mayor is clarifying is that effective adoption of this policy, all persons in excess of use will receive a warning notification. But there will be one warning notification,
Right.
not a continual warning.
Correct.
And then the non-compliance option to paying a fine will kick in.
Correct. Yeah. Okay, looking at city manager, looking at city attorney.
With the notification, do you want that amendment actually in the ordinance, or can that be an operational thing that we just implement? With the kickoff of this ordinance, we are gonna send every customer that has exceeded that 40,000 a notice that says, you have exceeded this allotment. If you exceed it in the future, you may be subject to a fine or a penalty of $25. And then include, just like we do in the water conservation ordinance, as part of the amendment that you're talking about, the ability to do, for lack of a better word, the water class in lieu of the penalty.
I think that'd be cleaner if we can do that. Are we fine with that?
Okay.
That's looking at everyone. All right. So you can strike that part of the ordinance, but that is going to be directed operationally. Are we fine with that? Okay.
Yeah, the only amendment is to include for the first penalty, the ability to attend a class in lieu of the penalty.
The initial notification to all non-compliers is the grace period. And then following 30 days after that, we will implement the first-time non-compliance offender will have an option to pay the fine or attend the education campaign.
Yeah, in the recognition that we have time to do that because this is the introduction, we'll have a second reading and the ordinance won't become effective for 30 days. So there is sufficient time to get that information to the customers, the affected customers.
Okay.
Good.
All right, clerk, you want to read that back?
Introducing an ordinance adding Turlock Municipal Code Title 6, Chapter 5, Article 3, Section 4, entitled Excessive Water Use Targets and Penalties. Title 6, Chapter 5, Article 3, Section 5, entitled Appeal. And Title 6, Chapter 5, Article 3, Section 6, entitled Appeal Hearing Request, with an amendment regarding first-time non-compliance, offered the option to attend an educational component. Correct?
Yes, and we'll bring the specific language back at the time of adoption.
And setting the final reading for January 24th, 2017.
That's correct. Let's call the roll.
Councilmember Esquer,
Yes.
Councilmember Dehart,
Yes.
Councilmember Bublak,
Yes.
Councilmember Jacob,
No.
Mayor Soisek.
Yes, motion carries 4-1. Thank you so much.
I'm going to read the title to the resolution
Absolutely.
as well, too. Adopting an excessive water use target of 40,000 gallons per month for single-family residential water customers and establishing a penalty of $25 for those single-family residential water customers whose water use exceeds 40,000 gallons per month. Councilmember Esquer,
Yes.
Councilmember Dehart,
Yes.
Councilmember Bublak,
Yes.
Councilmember Jacob,
No.
Mayor Soisek.
Yes, motion carries 4-1. Thank you so much. Thanks so much, Turner. We are going to take a quick 5-minute break. Clerk, will you hit the timer? And we'll come back.
So that's the only amendment we need to include as part of.
Yes, and they have.
Pie for you.
All right, I'm going to call this meeting back to order. Let's move on to item E, request to amend Turlock Municipal Code Title 4, Chapter 2, creating Article 1 entitled Turlock Disaster Council, using existing sections 1 through 8, and adding Article 2 entitled Stanislaus Disaster Council. Chief Carlson.
Thank you. Sorry. Mayor, Honorable Mayor, members of the City Council, I'm here on behalf basically of Chief White, who this is his pet project. He's been working on it for quite some time, putting a lot of hours into it, and due to some unforeseen circumstances, couldn't be here. So I'm going to do my best to fill in for him on this matter. So here tonight to propose and explain amending the Turlock Municipal Code Title 4, Chapter 4-2, Emergency Organizations and Functions, to coincide with the adoption of the revised 2017 City of Turlock Emergency Operations Plan, which was adopted on the consent calendar in this big binder here, which I believe you all got in an email form rather than killing all these trees. The process of revising the 2017 operations plan has taken approximately 1 year, and Brian has pointed out he would like to thank the directors here who put in a lot of time in the input into that process, and as well as the Stanislaus County Office of Emergency Services, who helped him with this directly. Presently, each of the cities in Stanislaus County are revising and updating their emergency operations plans to follow the Stanislaus County Emergency Operations Plan, which in turn follows the state emergency operations plan, so it's kind of a trickle-down effect. The City of Turlock Emergency Operations Plan specifically addresses threats encountered here in the city of Turlock as compared to the county and the state at a little higher of a level. So, top of my head, without being intimately involved in this document, it's gonna, the operations plan would include large gas line ruptures or large fires downtown, ammonia releases confined to the city of Turlock. The county emergency operations plan would be target more flooding in the Tuolumne River, possibly some wildland fires, dams, things like that. And then the state in turn would deal with more of the San Andreas Fault, nuclear power plants, international airports, things like that. So these plans must be updated periodically also to meet the new threats, which is what we've done here. And new threats, examples of those are cyber terrorism, foreign and domestic terrorism, public unrest, things of that nature. Additionally, if the emergency operation plans are not updated, then federal funding is potentially eliminated for various city projects, and reimbursements during emergencies may not be provided to the jurisdiction mitigating the emergency. So updating this can mean federal dollars and relief dollars. As mentioned previously, each plan addresses the likely threats to those jurisdictions, as well as identifies the lines of authority, succession plans, partnering agencies, and various roles and responsibilities of the personnel or agencies involved in the event of an emergency. Each plan also follows the National Incident Emergency System, NIMS, and the Standardized Emergency Management System, SIMS, which keeps us in compliance with federal mandates and qualifies the city for federal grants for various works and projects. So earlier tonight, as I stated, you adopted the revised emergency action plan and consent calendar. I believe it was item L on the consent calendar. The second part of this presentation is regards to the Turlock Municipal Code, which now needs to be updated to match the current operations plan, and also to include previously approved language regarding the Stanislaus County Disaster Council, which is not presently documented in the TMC Municipal Code Title 4, Chapter 4-2. Little background, the City of Turlock Municipal Code Title 4, Chapter 4-2 was created in 1967 and then revised in 1971. Not since then. So, however, you can imagine there's a great deal of change regarding the emergencies since then, and now must be updated to reflect what is currently in place within the City of Turlock as well as Stanislaus County. So, we're proposing updating the existing language in Article 1 of the Turlock Municipal Code to follow what is in the 2017 operations plan, and also adding include adding Article 2 to the Turlock Municipal Code, Title 4, Section 4-2. So Article 1 maintains the Turlock Disaster Council for local control in emergencies within the city of Turlock. And Article 2 will define the roles and responsibilities of the Stanislaus County Disaster Council, which was created in 2008. The Stanislaus County Disaster Council is currently described in the City of Turlock Operations Plan, Section 1.2.3, and let me read, this is exactly what it states, a brief paragraph. It states, Stanislaus County restructured its disaster council in 2008 to better serve the community by bringing together the Stanislaus Operational Area Council members and other community members from non-government agencies, community and faith-based organizations, and other partners involved in emergency management, planning, training, and operations. Members of the Disaster Council are policy-level representatives from the county and each city within Stanislaus County. The Disaster Council is responsible for reviewing and approving emergency management and disaster response programs developed by the Operational Area Council and or specific work groups formed for specific project work. Although the council will have no overall authority over any individual political jurisdiction, through the consensus process, programs and concepts will be developed that will provide a common platform for all stakeholders, thereby making a more effective and efficient delivery system area-wide. The Disaster Council is also responsible for administering a disaster service worker volunteer program. And note, the City of Turlock, as specified by Resolution 2008-168, joined and is a member of the Joint City Disaster Council. However, the Turlock Municipal Code Title 4, Chapter 2 does not reflect that action, and that's what we need to correct here. The purpose is to amend that municipal code to reflect the change in the language of the 2017 Emergency Operations Plan, and to also add the previously approved Stanislaus County Disaster Council language. That's what he has. With that, I'll attempt to answer any questions. I feel like I'm kind of like Connor Cook filling in for Derek Carr here for you Raider fans, you know, at this last moment. So we all know how that turned out. So,
Any questions for the chief? Any questions from the audience for the chief? All right, bringing it back. What's the pleasure of the council?
Just two clarifications, only because and it's not you, but you have in here that you kept changing to he, she. So on page 3, there are 2 different times where you refer to chairman. I just want us to be consistent in our gender equity. So under page 3, 42103, item A, the city manager who shall be chairman. And then under 42104, at the very last word, the vice chairman. But everything else you have here is about he, she, so those were something that you were consistently wanting to point out. So just suggestions. Otherwise, I would go ahead and introduce the ordinance.
All right.
Second.
Then we have a second, and I think we can, like last time, we can have these as operational to clean up the language, right? We don't have to make this an amendment.
We'll bring it back
Perfect.
for the adoption with chair and vice chair.
Perfect. All right, so we have a motion by Councilmember Bublak, seconded by Vice Mayor Dehart. Clerk, please read back the word. Actually, call the roll.
Introducing an ordinance amending Turlock Municipal Code Title 4, Chapter 2, creating Article 1 entitled Turlock Disaster Council using existing sections 1 through 8, and adding Article 2 entitled Stanislaus Disaster Council, incorporating amendments with regard to chair and vice chair, and setting the final reading for January 24th, 2017. Councilmember Esquer,
Yes.
Councilmember Dehart,
Yes.
Councilmember Bublak,
Yes.
Councilmember Jacob,
Yes.
Mayor Soisa.
Yes, thank you so much. Appreciate it. Moving on, request to determine the proposed ordinance regarding medical and non-medical marijuana regulations is exempt from the California Environmental Quality Act, and amend Turlock Municipal Code Title 5, Chapter 21 regarding medical and non-medical marijuana regulations, and amend Title 3, Chapter 1, Article 1, Section 1 regarding statement and purpose of chapter prohibitions. City Attorney.
Thank you, Mayor. This is a follow-up to our workshop. This is the actual action item that is proposed for the council. On January 12th, the city council adopted the current regulations related to marijuana in the city of Turlock. The ordinance prohibits commercial cannabis activities, delivery of medical cannabis within the Turlock, and prohibits all activities for which a state license is required pursuant to the Medical Marijuana and Safety Act, and prohibits cultivation of marijuana for non-commercial purposes. What's of note in that ordinance that was adopted is the section that identifies future legislation that may authorize the use of recreational marijuana, and the council's intent to prohibit certain activities if that legislation or initiative is passed. As you know, there was an initiative passed November 8th of 2016, the Control, Regulate, and Tax the Adult Use of Marijuana Act, and which legalizes non-medical use of marijuana by persons 21 years of age or older, and allows the personal cultivation of up to 6 marijuana plants. In addition, the AUMA creates a state regulatory and licensing system for the commercial marijuana activities as defined by the AUMA. And part of the reason I'm going into a little more depth is because some of the members of the public may not have been available during the workshop, and so I want to make sure that I cover what's set forth in the staff report and for the council. So the purpose of the proposed ordinance is to maintain the status quo by adding Article 2 and to add regulations regarding the indoor cultivation of non-medical marijuana. The ordinance is broken into 3 components. Article 1 is your current regulations with minor modifications. Article 2 deals with express implementation of regulations related to the Adult Use of Marijuana Act, and Article 3 deals with the regulation of indoor cultivation for personal use. The proposed amendments related to commercial activities would prohibit commercial non-medical marijuana activities in all zones, plan developments, and specific and master plan areas in the city. Prohibit all deliveries of non-medical marijuana within the city of Turlock. Prohibit all activities for which a state license is required pursuant to the Adult Use of Marijuana Act. And prohibit outdoor cultivation of marijuana in the city of Turlock. And again, regulate the personal cultivation of non-medical marijuana. Staff recommends the city council introduce and conduct the first reading of the ordinance, understanding that this is a policy decision and the council may have direction with respect to either Articles 1, 2, or 3, or all 3 of them. And we stand at the ready to receive that direction from the council and follow whatever decision the council makes with respect to this issue. With that, I'll be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Any questions or comments for the city attorney from the council? Yes, Councilman Esquer.
Just wanted to clarify, in the reading in the workshop, you said it was 6 plants per residence, right? Not per person.
Correct. The Adult Use of Marijuana Act allows 6 plants per private residence, and private residence is defined under the act as well.
Any other questions? Yes, Councilmember Butler.
Is there a time constraint? Ms. Norton?
So in terms of the commercial, and I'll start with the commercial, in order, the state will begin issuing licenses no later than January 1st of 2018. We don't want people to start setting up shop in the city.
Any questions or comments from the public? All right, bring it back to the council. What further discussion? We should take the motion and ordinance separately. What's the pleasure of the council?
Just a comment first. I kind of the belief that we're in an unknown category right now. I think that 2018 is a year away, and that making a decision right now when we're about to put somebody on a committee to be with the county and not knowing if Sessions will be granted the position and what will come of that, I think that a couple months wouldn't hurt us to see where we're going with the county discussion, and I think tabling this at this point would be helpful for us so we know what we're actually doing.
Any other further comments? City manager or city attorney, would you like to weigh in on the impacts of tabling it, or you don't have to?
I had one more question. No, I forgot it. No, I was gonna say, now, the changes that we're looking at in the ordinance, everything is gonna be in compliant with the state, correct? But not necessarily with federal.
Many of the activities that were authorized under the Adult Use of Marijuana Act, actually all of the activities, I think, are still a violation of federal law.
Yeah.
So there still continues to be that conflict. The only concern I would have with not expressly implementing Article 2, which is the prohibition against all of the commercial activities, is that we would have to rely upon the inferences that the prior section that talks about if there's an initiative that passes, then we want to prohibit all those activities. We would send that to the state and hope the state understands that that is specifically referring to the AUMA rather than explicitly prohibiting all those activities under Article 2. That would be my only concern, is if you implement Article 2, which is prohibiting all the commercial activities, then that's expressly dealing with the AUMA, and we can send that ordinance to the state agencies that I identified in the PowerPoint presentation earlier. Now, I understand if you don't want to, there's a concern about adopting regulations related to the indoor cultivation of marijuana. One of the reasons that we're doing that is to try to address the public health and safety issues associated with that, making sure that grow lamps that are used don't exceed the electrical capacity, and certainly the people that understand electricity can speak more intelligently about that issue, making sure that there's not mold accumulation. But if there's some reservation about regulating the indoor cultivation, I think you can adopt Article 2 without Article 3, and it's why we specifically set it up in that manner, is that it would be easy to implement the changes to Article 1 and Article 2, and perhaps leave the regulation of indoor cultivation for a later discussion. But
just with the discussions going on with the county, if all as stated is adopted, the discussions that'll take effect for this time period from today, from when it's adopted to going forward, and then when it comes back from the county, that could then be amended, correct? Yeah, okay, just clarifying. Yes.
At this point, I would second the motion to table.
So we have further discussion. Anybody else? Yes.
If I could, and see if you'll want to amend. In regard to 521-102 for the prohibition, both A, B, and C, where we're basically not allowing anything, and we want the state to know, I think that and table the rest is what my intent was, if that's okay with you. Okay, thank you.
Any other discussion? Yes, Councilman DeHart.
I would just echo that the strongest message possible that allows us to retain as much flexibility for the future as we can is really the message that needs to be communicated. This is, we disagree with your effort, intent, resolve. This is ours. Get out of my back pocket. So.
All right. So we have a motion to go forward. Can you restate your motion? Sorry, to go. What are you omitting?
So all we're gonna pass is 5-21-102, the prohibition, to include subsection parentheses A, B, and C, not D.
All right, and we have a second with that, Councilman Esquer. Clerk, can you read back and call the roll?
I'm going to do the secret determination first. Determining the proposed ordinance regarding medical and non-medical marijuana regulations is exempt from the California Environmental Quality Act, CEQA, pursuant to Section 15061B3, review for exemption of the CEQA guidelines.
That's correct, and I believe Councilmember Bublak, you had motioned that, and Councilman Esquer did. Please call the roll.
Councilmember Esquer?
Yes.
Councilmember DeHart?
Yes.
Councilmember Bublak?
Yes.
Councilmember Jacob?
Yes.
Mayor Soisa?
Yes, motion carries 5-0. in the ordinance?
Give me 1 second to confer with our city attorney.
If I can just take a second and walk through the ordinance to make sure that and if we can just start with Article 1. And it might be helpful if we pull up the ordinance on the overhead so the audience members can see what we're talking about as we walk through it, if that'd be okay. What's the PowerPoint? It's not for the ordinance. And maybe if I can reference page 4 of the ordinance for the council so that we're on the same page as we walk through the language.
What about page 4, Phaedra?
Please. So 521-102 is the prohibition. Subsection D, except for the indoor personal cultivation of non-medical marijuana permitted under section 521-303. That language will actually be stricken now because we won't have an Article 3, from what I understand, the direction to be. We will still strike E because we're going to address that in the next article. Okay, with respect to Article 2, which starts with 521-201, all of the definitions will remain the same. And I'm on page 6. Stacy. We will keep subsection A, subsection B, subsection D, and we will delete the indoor or personal cultivation of non-medical marijuana subject to the regulations set forth in Article 3 because we are eliminating Article 3. Okay.
Stop letting me change pages. Can you do page 2?
And then finally, with respect to Article 3, we will not be implementing that article at this time. And then I want to get to the business license regulations as well. So if you'll, I think we want to implement the restrictions contained in the business license regulations to specifically address the Adult Use of Marijuana Act, and that is on page 15, section Article 3.1.101. And the amendments that are identified there will stay the same, which would basically prohibit the city shall not approve license or uses for which a non-medical marijuana or medical marijuana shall not approve licenses or uses for non-medical marijuana or medical marijuana, collective, cooperative, dispensary, or any other non-medical or medical commercial cannabis activity. The city shall not approve licenses or uses for the distribution, cultivation, manufacturing, transportation, delivery, testing, storing, or processing of medical marijuana or non-medical marijuana, whether under the Medical Marijuana Regulation and Safety Act or the Adult Use of Marijuana Act, and that we will not approve licenses or uses for any activity that requires a license either under the Medical Marijuana Regulation and Safety Act or the Adult Use of Marijuana Act. Is that correct? Correct. Okay. Yes, exactly. Yeah, Article 3 needs to come out completely.
Clerk, we're ready when you are.
Okay. Introducing an ordinance amending Turlock Municipal Code Title 5, Chapter 21, regarding medical and non-medical marijuana regulations, creating Article 1 entitled Medical Marijuana Regulations, using existing sections 1 through 4, creating Article 2 entitled Non-Medical Marijuana Regulations, and amending Title 3, Chapter 1, Article 1, Section 1 regarding statement and purpose of chapter prohibitions to include the amendments as stated by the city attorney, and setting the final reading for January 24th, 2017.
That seems to be correct. Please call the roll.
Councilmember Councilmember Esquer,
Yes.
Councilmember Dehart,
Yes.
Councilmember Bublak,
Yes.
Councilmember Jacob,
Yes.
Mayor Soiseth.
Yes, motion carries 5-0. Thank you. Moving on to scheduled items. Request to approve a University Pass Transit funding agreement with Associated Students Incorporated of California State University Stanislaus. Mr. Wayne York.
Good evening, Mayor, members of council.
I thought you guys were just here to watch the whole meeting. You were here for the bus pass. I get it.
Can I get home?
Before you this evening is a draft funding agreement between the city and ASI that would provide CSU students unlimited use of the city's fixed route bus system across 5 fiscal years, including this partial fiscal year. In exchange for this unlimited use, ASI has agreed to pay the city $90,000 per year, which is roughly $10 per student based on current enrollment figures. Even though this rate represents a substantial discount over the equivalent full fare for all students, it's still a large number, and the city agreed to a tiered discounts in the first 2 years to provide ASI with additional time to secure the additional funding needed for the final 3 years. This is a big deal for the city and for CSUS. The agreement is the first of its kind in Turlock for public transportation, and it represents the ongoing commitment to partnership between the city and CSUS. I hope it can be a model for future agreements with other regional stakeholders and other large employers in the area. 100% of the funding provided under the agreement will go towards our fixed route operational costs. So it's going to be helping us remain financially stable and reaching our state mandated fare box recovery ratio of 20%. And it's going to allow us to make future system improvements and enhancements for the benefit of all riders. This is important because each dollar received from ASI can pay for $5 in expenses when we leverage it with federal funds. So it's essentially matched dollars, and so it's worth more than the $1 or the $90,000. I would like to thank Nicole and Caesar with ASI for their leadership on this issue. We've been meeting with them a lot. I'd like to recognize the council for adopting the revamped fixed routes and schedules that were implemented earlier this month, as that played heavily into the decision for ASI to participate in this agreement, because now we have more direct and frequent access to key areas of interest for students like Monte Vista Crossings and downtown Turlock. And we operate during later evening hours, which is beneficial to them as well. So I'd be happy to answer any questions from the council at this time.
Any questions or comments from the council? I'm going to open it up to public. Any questions or comments from public? Yeah, get on up here.
Good evening. My name is Carlene Dyer. I'm here on behalf of Nicole Larson. She cannot be here today. Part of our message to you is thank you for your consideration and meaningful thought that the city and all of its moving parts and people have given to this monumental project. The campus community is excited and supportive of this partnership and speaks so much to the mutually benefiting relationship between the university and our city. This partnership will undoubtedly be a strong foundation to continue future collaboration on projects that instill pride in our university as well as the surrounding community. We wanted to speak to the homework that we have been doing since our first meetings with the city's engineering department. After the routes were determined to be very beneficial for students, we concluded that we need to market to the campus community. We are expecting to be advertising to a lot of first-time riders. So because of that, we have filmed a how-to video about bus riding 101 essentials. We have also incorporated that the Turlock Transit website tools such as calendar times, maps, and to our ASI USU phone applications. So it is easy, accessible, and not intimidating for students who have never rode a bus before. We will continue to campaign in high foot traffic areas of our campus with giveaways, free t-shirts, and more. ASI's #1 priority is to ensure that students are benefiting from free transportation. We hope that students will explore Turlock more, invest in our local businesses, and drive their vehicles less. Thank you so much for your consideration and all that you do for our community.
And then also, my name's Haley Holm, and I'm a part of the University Student Union. So just kind of want to speak on behalf of the University Student Union. When we heard that ASI and the City of Turlock was going to take on this partnership and agreement, we couldn't be more excited as well. So we've combined forces with them as well, and we're going to assist them in all marketing aspects and implementing it to our students, teaching them how to ride and everything. And as from a student who comes from an area that is highly a part of public transportation, moving to Turlock and not having this access as a college student here is very difficult. So I'm really excited to hopefully see this come and benefit all of our students at Stanislaus. Thank you.
Thank you. Great. Any additional comments or from the public? Or from the council? Councilman DeHart, do you have anything?
Oh, no.
I would like to point
Yeah.
out too that,
Yeah.
that routes 1 and 2 that go along Monte Vista Avenue that are red and gold, that wasn't accidental. So
Yeah, right.
If you noticed that on
It's
the
very
route
good.
guide.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, Councilman Jacob.
Just curious, does this help with our fare box ratios?
Yes,
Does
it
this help to meet
directly
those?
directly helps with that.
Oh, great.
Yes.
So no, I'm really excited about this partnership. I have fond memories as a UC Berkeley student hopping on AC Transit and showing my ID card and running around the campus. Or the city. It makes it a lot easier for students just to on a whim hop on that bus to downtown or Monte Vista Crossings or wherever it might be. And so I think this is a great partnership, a great idea. They get a deal as far as the prorated rate, but or a discounted rate, but then we also get that up front, and so I think it's just a win-win for both the campus and for the city. So thank you guys all for your cooperation and working together. Who's gonna scramble to motion this forward? There it is. That's what I thought. So we have an exuberant motion by Councilmember Bublak, seconded by Vice Mayor DeHart. Clerk, please read back the motion.
Approving a university pass transit funding agreement with Associated Students, Inc., ASI, of California State University Stanislaus, CSUS, for a 5-year period in which the city shall provide unlimited use of fixed route bus service to all full-time or full-time equivalent CSUS students in exchange for quarterly payments totaling $90,000 annually, with tiered discounts provided in the first 18 months of the agreement.
That's correct.
Councilmember Esquer? Councilmember DeHart?
Yes.
Councilmember Esquer? Sorry.
Yes.
Thank you. Councilmember DeHart, once again,
Yes.
please. Thank you. Councilmember Bublak?
Yes.
Councilmember Jacob?
Yes.
Mayor Soisa?
Yes, motion carries 5-0. Thank you, Carlene. Thank you, Haley. Thank you to everyone. All of ASI coming up. Thank you. All right, you're still up. Approving the purchase and delivery of two 28-foot Class F Champion low-floor buses for use by Turlock Transit from Creative Bus Sales Incorporated.
Yes.
Wayne.
So one of the core visions of our short-range transit plan, as you might recall, is sustainability. So our recent route and schedule changes with our fixed route services, they speak to that. In meeting the 3 primary goals identified by residents during our year-long outreach efforts. Those 3 primary goals would be bidirectional routes, increased frequency, and longer operating hours. The biggest challenge we now face isn't on-time performance, but rather the buses themselves. We've been plagued with a wide variety of mechanical failures that have regularly resulted in a no spare condition, which is to say that only enough buses are running to provide the scheduled service, but no backups are available in the event that there's an unexpected breakdown with buses that are en route. This is a significant problem. On a few occasions, we've actually dropped below that level, which has resulted in a temporary service disruption. This is serious not only because of the human impact, such as people missing doctor's appointments or work or transfers, but also it reflects badly on a service at a time where we're rebranding and trying to encourage more ridership and more use of the system. The item before you tonight is part of a strategy to address that. The purchase of these 2 buses from Creative Bus Sales for sole use in our dial-a-ride service will free up 2 buses currently used for dial-a-ride, but equipped for fixed route, and allow them to be the backups for that fixed route service. The purchase would be made off of a CalAct MBTA cooperative purchase agreement, to which the city is a member, and cost a total of $337,290.46. Unlike most bus purchases, which involve production lead times of months or even years, We actually lucked out because these buses are readily available at the dealership as a consequence of another transit agency purchasing them, and then the deal fell through and the buses got returned, so they're essentially brand new. The specifications of the buses meet our needs, and pending council's approval, we should be able to get them ordered, delivered, and put into service promptly following all the necessary inspections. We have sufficient local transportation funds budgeted to cover this purchase as well in the current year. This is one of the intermediate steps we're taking to address the fleet reliability. In a minute, with the next item on the agenda, I'll be discussing a long-term step as well. But if we can move aggressively to improve the condition of our fleet, both through the acquisition of additional vehicles, as well as increasing fleet maintenance support services as well, funded by transit capital and operations funds respectively, then we can all but eliminate service disruptions and improve confidence in our riders. I believe this is a key part to our future success because fast routes and frequent schedules don't matter if the bus breaks down, doesn't show up. So we need to be reliable so that we serve our mission of getting people to where they need to go and hopefully grow our ridership base at the same time. So I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Any questions or comments for Mr. York? Any questions or comments from the audience for Mr. York? All right, bring it back to council. What's the pleasure of the council?
Introduce the motion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All right, we have a motion by Councilmember Jacob, second by Councilmember Esquer. Clerk, please read back the motion and roll.
Approving the purchase and delivery of two 28-foot Class F Champion low-floor buses for use by Turlock Transit from Creative Bus Sales, Inc. of Chino, California, through the California Association for Coordinated Transportation, CalACT, and the Morongo Basin Transit Authority, MBTA, Purchasing Cooperative, to which the City of Turlock is a cooperative member, in an amount not to exceed $337,290.46, Fund 426, without compliance to formal bid procedures in accordance with Turlock Municipal Code Section 2708B5.
That's correct. Please call the roll.
Councilmember Esquer.
Aye.
Thank you. Councilmember DeHart.
Yes.
Councilmember Bublak.
Yes.
Councilmember Jacob.
Yes.
Mayor Soiseth.
Yes, motion carries 5-0. Next up, Wayne, request to approve an agreement with Gillig LLC of Hayward, California for the future purchase of a minimum of 4 and maximum of 10 heavy-duty buses for use in fixed route transit service.
Thank you, Mayor. The item before you tonight is part of the long-term strategy that I referenced previously for improving our fleet reliability. It involves a 5-year agreement with Gillig, a major manufacturer of transit buses based here in California. Gillig buses have a widely recognized reputation within the transit industry for excellence, reliability, and longevity. If approved, the city would agree to purchase a minimum of 4 and a maximum of 10 buses from Gillig over the duration of the 5-year contract. These buses would initially augment and ultimately replace our existing 35-foot buses, which are reaching the end of their FTA-identified useful lives, which are 12 years each. Our big bus fleet consists of 4 35-foot buses plus 2 35-foot buses recently received from Merced, which are very closely nearing readiness to roll out into active service. This agreement is made possible through the efforts of the Livermore-Amador Valley Transit Authority, which conducted a competitive bid for buses and allowed other agencies to piggyback essentially as consortium members. The city was one of several other public agencies that were listed in the RFP. This is an FTA requirement, by the way. To be eligible to piggyback, you have to be specifically listed, and you have to specifically list a range, a minimum and a maximum of buses that you intend to purchase over the life of the contract. Mm-hmm. So we got in there as a placeholder to keep our options open, essentially. Now, one of the conditions, though, through the process is that if a local agency, once LAFTA selected Gillig, each of the local consortium agencies that choose to participate have to execute a direct agreement with Gillig. And so that's the agreement that's before you tonight. It's that essentially the master agreement or the parent agreement that allows us to make future purchases. To be clear, I'm not seeking the approval of the purchase of any specific Gillig buses tonight. Again, this is simply the parent agreement for future purchases. If approved, staff will meet with fleet maintenance staff, First Transit, our transit operator, and Gillig in the coming weeks to identify the specs of the bus that will meet our needs. Staff will return to council in the near future with a request to purchase 4 35-foot CNG low-floor buses, along with bus specifications and applicable costs. Staff further expects to return to the council within 12 to 18 months with a request for an additional 2 to 4 buses based on the available federal funding. Gillig buses would be purchased using primarily federal funds and augmented with LTF transit funds as needed. The goal would be to use 100% federal funds. The reason this is a long-term strategy is that currently Gillig has a 20-month production lead time. So, even if we got the order in within the next couple of months, we're looking at the end of next year to be able to receive those buses. We hope that this will cut down when they move operations to their new plant in Livermore in a few months. In May, they're supposed to be opening up a much larger facility, but only time will tell as far as their production output. In the meantime, we'll continue to work on short and intermediate term strategies for improving fleet reliability as well. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer.
Any questions or comments from Mr. York? Questions or comments from the audience? Come on up.
Hi, Bob Puffer, 3040 Augsburg Court. On these buses, we have 35-foot buses now, and in here it says 4 heavy-duty buses. What's the size and capacity of those compared to what we're having now?
Well, under the RFP that was awarded to Gillig, we are allowed to choose different size buses from them, so we can get the size that works for us. The larger sizes are all still considered heavy duty, but for us, the 35-foot buses work better for us for turning radius purposes. There's several of our routes where buses, if we had 40-foot buses, it'd be difficult to make the turns, so we opt to choose 35. But there are options available under the contract.
Okay, and what kind of power plants? Is it diesel, gas, a hybrid, or?
The city has adopted a fuel path for CNG when possible, and these are going to be CNG powered low-floor buses.
Okay, and then I saw that Measure L allocates Turlock $1 million over the next 25 years for transit services. Is that been figured into your funding, or is that?
We have yet to specifically identify where the Measure L transit dollars are going to be applied. Those can be applied to capital or operational expenses. In all likelihood, it'll probably be operational of some nature. That's where funding shortfalls tend to be, is on the operational side. But to answer your question, we have not specifically identified that. I believe it's $43,000 a year under Measure L. We haven't talked about exactly where that's going to go.
All right, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Any additional questions or comments? All right, bringing it back to council. What's the pleasure of the council for the discussion? What's going on?
Introduce the motion.
All right.
Second.
We have a motion by Councilmember Blueblock, second by Vice Mayor DeHart. Clerk, please read it back and then the roll.
Approving an agreement with Gillig LLC of Hayward, California for the future purchase of a minimum of 4 and maximum of 10 heavy-duty buses for use in fixed route transit service as allowed by the Livermore Amador Valley Transit Authority, LAVDA, and their recent contract to Gillig LLC in response to LAVDA request for proposals number 2015-08, a contract to which the city of Turlock is a consortium member.
That's correct. Please call the roll.
Councilmember Esquer,
Yes.
Councilmember DeHart,
Yes.
Councilmember Bublak,
Yes.
Councilmember Jacob,
Yes.
Mayor Soiseth.
Yes, motion carries 5-0. Thank you. Next up, when you've got this, request to direct staff to develop a program that allows local businesses and organizations to serve as an alternate third-party point-of-sale location for the sale of Turlock Transit passes.
Sure. As you can see, we've been busy with transit. There's a lot of things
absolutely.
to talk about. During the short-range transit plan public outreach efforts last year, the city heard from passengers on what improvements they wanted to see. While a lot of the comments were focused on fixed route services and schedules, one of the things that was highlighted by several of the passengers was the fact that bus passes can only be purchased at one location, City Hall. In response, we committed to look into alternative purchase locations such as off-site third-party pass sales and even automated vending machine solutions. After reaching out to local department, grocery, and convenience stores, we found out that some vendors did have an interest in providing that service. The staff report goes into detail on some specifics there, attract customers who would also purchase something else while they're there. This approach works well because it's completely voluntary for the participating businesses and organizations. Does not cost the city anything to implement other than the staff time to put it together, and improves convenience to passengers and may lead to an increase in overall pass sales for people that can now conveniently access passes versus not buying it because they can't get down here between 8 to 5 on weekdays. Another option mentioned in the staff report would be the purchase and installation of vending machine kiosks that could vend passes 24/7 through the acceptance of cash, coin, and credit cards. This comes with a hefty price tag, particularly for the first one. This is the price from GenFair, and it's nearly $188,000 for that first one. And the reason for that is, in addition to the unit cost, there's a whole variety of setup costs to set up for the credit card processing, and it still seems excessive to me, but there's a variety of setup things that they need to do to get your system up and running. It is a fairly involved system setup. Those subsequent units would cost around $69,000 if we wanted to implement more than one. Various options we've tossed around would be to have one down here in City Hall. There's actually a spot right in the building area that has power, and that would alleviate people having to wait in line to purchase tickets. They could come to the machine there. We're also going to be building the transit center, so having one out there, perhaps you can do it inside or outside, might be an option, as well as other locations geographically spread out throughout the city. If the council chose to go with this route, with automated machines, we could include this in the transit claim in the upcoming transit claim to StanCog for funding next year. So it would be paid for with transit funds, if that's the direction of the council. So if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Questions or comments from the council on this one? All right, council. Questions or comments from the audience? All right, bring it back to the council. Further discussion, possible motion. What are we looking at?
Introduce it.
Okay. Do I have a second? I think we're directing staff to develop a program. Do you want to elaborate?
Well, I guess the clarification would be helpful for staff would be it's or both. And so one of the options is implement the program, develop and implement the program. The other one would be the placement of one or more kiosks throughout the city, or we could do both. But I'm just looking to get some consensus from the council.
Yeah, I think.
I'm sorry, my understanding is you're gonna kind of provide us with like where the cost benefit, where it was, bring us both, just so we know if we have the money or whatever first. That was my thought when you were talking. I misunderstood?
Oh, sure. We have sufficient capacity in our transit claim to be able to include the cost of that initial machine, in fact, multiple machines, if that's the direction of the council. So it would not be a capacity issue.
Can you explain the funding for that a little bit more?
Sure. We have federal transit funds that are received as a Section 5307 recipient. A lot of those funds are currently and for the next couple of years tied up in bus purchases. So the next revenue source that we get is LTF funds, local transportation funds. We are apportioned a certain amount with a ceiling by StanCog. We submit a transit claim and identify our costs, not only for operations, but for capital purchases and capital projects. And so we have sufficient capacity in our estimated LTF to be able to include some of this, even if it meant not including other capital improvement projects. We don't always hit our cap. In fact, we generally don't hit our cap. I believe this last year we were 400,000, Mike, sorry, below our ceiling. I think that was, so we have capacity to continue to purchase these and not impact operations.
And is that like a use it or lose it kind of a deal, or does it carry over?
Any monies not received, any monies that we do not include in our claim, basically the difference between our claim and our ceiling goes to a second tier distribution process that goes out for other improvements, which is basically our road money. That is a money that is then broken down further on a percentage basis, and we get a certain percentage of that savings. So, for example, if we are 400,000 under our cap, we don't get all 400,000 of that money as other. We get a prorated percentage of that, which I believe is about 13%.
One of the things that I have a little concern with is that I'd like to kind of look at seeing how well the over-the-counter works before we go into these high-price spending machines. I think that as a member of StanCog, like, I understand where there's this mentality of if there's a fund out there, we need to spend it and deplete those resources. Otherwise, you don't know where it's going to go or whatever it might be. But I really don't feel comfortable going that route. I think that there's going to be a lot of scrutiny, as it should be, as far as why are we testing this out, but going with the Cadillac model versus going with the see where we are as a baseline and then seeing if maybe that's more appropriate. So I actually you can walk me through it a little bit more if you'd like, but I was going to strike and not put the placement of the transit pass vending machines purchased, owned, and installed and maintained by the city, but go with the first where we contact businesses to be the third party point of sale.
Sure, that works.
That's my preference. I don't know if
Yeah,
anyone else.
and I agree. My motion would be option one, over the counter, and you know, obviously, my prior life, I just kind of concerned about having machines that we're not monitoring, and we have enough jobs out there for the police to worry about. And so I think once we figure out where we would want to place them later, let's just start with option one.
Sure.
Can we also get some sort of follow-up on the staff time and what we estimate that costs and
Of implementing the
running,
program?
yeah, implementing this program?
We can follow up with that information.
Okay, great.
Any other questions or comments? Yes. I see fingers at the button. Yeah, Councilman Scared.
Yeah, okay, yeah, I was looking at the motion, it says, okay, so we're directing staff to develop a program, right? We're not implementing anything at this point, right?
For option one.
So we're just saying, hey, how would this work?
Mhm.
So, yeah, I like option one, but I don't necessarily want to throw out the possibility of adding the vending machines at a later point, so.
I don't think that this would preclude us from revisiting this option. I just don't want to send the wrong message to the community that we're going to go for the larger program when we don't know the exact tried and true method yet, and see how well the sales come back, and see where the placement might be, placing these high priced vending machines at places where we think are going to be high foot traffic area might not be the right placement, whereas when we see the over the counter we can see geographically what works best.
Sure.
Yes. City manager, yeah, please.
Mayor, I think we can bring back the program that is tiered. We're in through a cost-benefit analysis, making the first phase of this the third-party over-the-counter. We have plenty of 24-hour convenience stores that we can partner with to sell these citations, the tickets. Sorry, the passes. And from there, if there is if there is demand and there would be a benefit to expending $180,000, I think that can be determined through the first phase, which is the third party over the counter.
Absolutely. No, I agree, and so for me, the reason why I was going to strike that is just I don't want to spend too much staff time on something that is of a high cost right now at this step, but I think that it doesn't preclude us from adding that on later on. So that's why I was going to strike that. I don't want to send the community the wrong message.
That makes sense. And to be clear, the feedback we received from the community members wasn't necessarily about the lack of 24/7 access. It really was about geographic locations. So I think taking the approach that you've talked about really addresses the core feedback that we got during the outreach process.
Perfect. All right. So was there a motion on the floor?
I had a motion.
So are you okay with the amendment to strike the or through the placement transit?
Yes.
Taking the vending machines off. Okay. Did I have a second?
Second.
Okay. So I just,
No.
you're so deferential in your seconds. I'm
Yes.
giving it to you, Vice Mayor. So you're fine with her amendments? Okay, perfect. So we have a motion by Councilmember Bublak, seconded by Vice Mayor Dehart. I'm going to read this out. To a request to directing staff to develop a program that allows local businesses and organizations to serve as an alternate third-party point of sale location for the sale of Turlock transit passes through direct over-the-counter sales. Period. All right. Please call the roll.
Councilmember Esquer,
Yes.
Councilmember Dehart,
Yes.
Councilmember Bublak,
Yes.
Councilmember Jacob,
Yes.
Mayor Soiseth.
Yes, motion carries 5-0. Sorry, City Clerk, I stole your job, but I appreciate it. Thank you. I know, right? Hey, it's my prerogative. I'm the chair. Moving on to item E, a request to authorize the addition of one associate civil engineer, one assistant engineer, one engineering technician, one public works construction inspector, and one land surveying technician within the Development Services Department or Engineering Division through an outside recruitment to address future construction projects associated with successful passage of Measure L. Director Pickhock.
Thank you, Honorable Mayor, members of council. Thanks for bearing with us. I know we had a lot of items on the agenda tonight, and I apologize for that. On November 8th, Measure L was approved by the Stanislaus County voters. Measure L is a half-cent sales tax on taxable goods to be used for street maintenance, traffic management, sidewalk, bicycle facilities, transit operations, and regional corridor improvements. Turlock's expenditure plan proposed front-loading maintenance with $4.6 million spent on road maintenance in the first 7 years, with $2.2 million spent in years 8 through 25. As of the preparation of this report, no formal action has been taken on the institution of front-loading policy, whereby the regional significant projects would be held off and front-load the maintenance projects over the first 7 years. However, finance has estimated that given the current the sales tax that we're generating, that if we use the full 65% that's allocated to us, these are the maintenance dollars, signal dollars, sidewalk dollars, and bike dollars, we should be very close to, and if not exceed, the 4.6 million as shown in the expenditure plan. To manage the new funding and workload, it is anticipated that 5 additional staff will be necessary due to the survey, design, bid, manage, and inspect the projects. Preliminary estimates anticipate that the year 1 expenses for Measure L for new staff and salaries would be $549,000. Measure L revenues and expenditures will be accounted for in a separate general ledger fund, Fund 218. And the 5 staff members will be placed in a new fund and will focus on Measure L projects. While these positions will be there to support Measure L, there is going to be times that they may work on other projects. If this occurs, they will be billing out their time to those other projects, and funding will be brought back into the 218 as revenue. So no Measure L funds will be used on any project that is not a Measure L identified project. Staff is recommending outside recruitment be conducted to allow for the most qualified candidates. Due to the nationwide shortage of qualified engineers and engineer-related personnel, staff is requesting the council authorize the city manager to make the following incentives to lateral moves from other agencies. Up to 120 hours of vacation leave to each new employee, up to 80 hours of sick leave to each new employee, and also apply 16 hours of vacation to any city employee who recommends an applicant for which that applicant is ultimately hired. Be happy to answer any questions you may have on this proposed option.
Absolutely. Any questions or comments? Yes, Councilmember Bublak.
So just for clarification's sake, that no general fund money is going to be used, but we're not gonna create any money till later, so that first 549,000, we're just holding that in a bank and getting reimbursed, or how are we doing that?
What we're going to do is keep track of, well, it's gonna take some time to get them up and on board, so you're not gonna have any expenses for a while, but once they come on board, anything that, any expenses in this fiscal year until we get the funding will be kept track of, and then we'll bring the money back in to cover the costs.
Okay.
So any other questions or comments? Great. Actually, that's a great question for clarification. Any questions, comments? And this is not dissimilar to other jurisdictions as to what other cities and counties are doing to ramp up.
I believe there's other agencies trying to do the same thing, as well as I think others are gonna use other methods, maybe existing staff. A lot of the other agencies took a different approach than we did. They're doing more maintenance-driven projects like slurry seals, chip seals, and so forth. Doesn't take a lot of design effort and time. We put our focus on our major work, on our arterials and collectors, the overlays, the inlays, the work that's gonna be necessary to get the pothole issues dealt with. We're not gonna put lipstick on a pig, essentially. We're trying to really take care of those roads that really need effort, instead of just putting money on the roads that are pretty good condition. Because if you put a slurry seal down, or if you put down a chip seal, the roads are got a pretty good condition at the start with. So our approach is a little different. We're trying to really take a major, our approach is try to take care of some of these major corridors and get them up to really good speed. A prime example is right there at the University of Monte Vista. That road was in disrepair. Hawkeye in front of Donnelly Park was in disrepair. What we're gonna do is those type of treatments where you see the roads have come in, we've done the repair work, they're flat, they're smooth, and they're gonna last a long time. So that's our approach.
It's funny, as you're talking, I'm thinking West Main, East Avenue, Gear Road, all the lists that we're going to tackle, and you forget just a year, 2 years ago, top was Folker, top was Monte Vista, all those spots that you just talked about. So as soon as you get them fixed.
Exactly. We've been focusing a lot of energy on our arterials. So you've spent a lot of time and effort on Monte Vista, Folker, Hawkeye, Gear Road, Lander Avenue. So, and then we're going to be spending more time and effort on those corridors as well as with the Measure L funds. First priority is West Main Street, with East Avenue shortly thereafter, and Golden State Boulevard following up right after that. So we're going to be making some big improvements here in the community.
Absolutely. Any questions or comments from the public on this side? Yes, there he is, Mr. Trueweiler. What was it? 9:35. Come on. Took you this long to comment on the next item?
I do have a question, yes. My question is, I mean, we're getting this funding and it's to repair our roads. Do we have a shortage of staff now? I mean, we've had staff doing this work. It's 5 new staff members to implement these funds. I mean, the funds should be going to repairing the roads, not hiring new staff, unless we absolutely need them. You know, I'm just questioning.
That's a great question, absolutely, and I know you guys have a great answer.
Yes, certainly. Thank you for asking the question as a tree weller, because really, when you look at these as construction projects, and we're not talking about, as Mr. Pitcock referred to, putting lipstick on a pig. We're talking about excavating roadways and rebuilding sub-base structures and putting down new asphalt, repairing curbs, gutters, so on and so forth. Those are full-blown construction projects. They require engineering, they require survey staff to go out and survey the roads, they require inspectors to inspect the construction, and no, we do not have that staff. The city has not been repairing roads or rebuilding roads because we don't have the money to do it. Therefore, the engineering staff that we currently have are sized accordingly, and we currently don't have a road construction program. We do now, and we have to bring the staff on. Those staff is considered part of the construction cost. There are no administrative costs. The city has not factored in any administrative costs for administrating the Measure L program.
Is that clear or no? Yeah.
It's clear, but not totally clear.
Okay, what's your question? Let's get us to clear.
Well, we've been doing these projects previously. It's not like we're doing more projects, but we've been doing projects previously. I mean, like when you redid West Main Street back in 1975 and 6, of course you weren't here then, but, and Mike, you weren't here either, so I don't know how you can answer those questions.
So I can answer some of them, Mr. Treeweller. We have downsized significantly over the last decade as transportation funding has been committed to operation of streetlights and so on and so forth, and there hasn't been the money available for the roadway construction. And your question is, we have been doing some roads, as you heard the mayor previously speak to, but the issue is, we don't think the community will be satisfied with a 2 and 3 year project timeline to complete these construction projects. What staff has heard is, we want these roads under construction and we want them repaired. This is a 25-year program. We want to make sure that we can complete all of the projects in that 25-year. With the staffing that we have now, we will have to stop doing work in other areas. We don't have adequate staffing to manage any additional work. And so the staffing that we're bringing on will solely be dedicated to Measure L projects. Therefore, there should be no delay in the engineering, design, in the surveying, and in the construction management of it, because they will be dedicated. And we will continue to utilize our existing engineers and surveyors on the routine projects that we currently are engaged in. Does that help?
Well, yeah, but I mean, council and mayor are gonna have to make the decision. I'm just trying to help input some information. I don't want us to get ahead, so we're putting a larger percentage into personnel than we are into road repair. I think that's my point.
Yeah, and we're not here, but I think your point that you just said, we are getting ahead with this, and it's not acceptable to the community, it's not acceptable to me to wait until August, September, October to then staff up to get ready for these massive projects. These are large undertakings. I mean, you've been at the West Main Corridor community forums where we've talked about the crowning in the road and what do we do and how do we shift lanes, and we have traffic signalization that we have to do. All of those things are very complex. It's not acceptable to me to wait that long when we know the money will come and we can account for that and we can pay back the funds here so we can get those engineers ready to go. So as soon as we have the button in to hit in August, we have those shovel-ready projects. Yes.
Milt, while you're walking up there, we also, and no disrespect to our staff, but remember, we allocated money to do some road work previously a year ago. We just didn't have the personnel to do it. And so this is where just that, we didn't have the people to do it. So now with the Measure L, we need that many more people to get started and do it because we have allocations and we have needs, and we promised people that their sales tax was going to something that was gonna be significantly seen immediately.
I think it all sounds wonderful, but I do have one point of caution. We're not factoring in a recession because we're basing this on sales tax. Well, you know, we're 7 years and 7 months since our last recession. Sales tax is going to go down when the recession hits. So just, I don't know, do we need 5? Maybe we can use 3.
Okay, so I agree the sales tax revenue, and so we have 25 years, and you can see on our website, and we're going to actually have a space designated here in the hallway to physically look at the projects that are going to happen in 2017, 18, 19, 20, and that's the sales tax revenue. Will continue for that period. Like you said, it'll ebb and flow, and so there'll be perhaps projects at the tail end of the 25-year span that will have to not be funded, or perhaps the sales tax revenue is stronger and there'll be more additional projects to address in that 20 to 25 years. But as far as West Main and some of those immediate projects that we want to get shovel ready in August, there will be funds, and so that is something that I think is appropriate for our council to get ready for right away. And hopefully that clarifies it. Any additional questions or comments from the public? Yes, Mr. Puffer.
Bob Puffer, 3040 Augsburg Court. I was just looking over Measure L this morning, and it said that you can allocate 1% for administrative expenses.
Do you want to clarify that?
We are not we are not charging any administrative cost.
Well, I know, I'm just saying, in a future thing, we have some staff time,
That's
human
reference.
resources, you can
I
put
think
1% there.
it's referencing StanCog at
Yeah.
the county level.
Yeah, the 1% that is represented in Measure L is to cover the cost of StanCog to administer the program of collecting and distributing and overseeing the reporting of the use of Measure L revenue.
Okay. I had the same concerns as Milt. You know, I was looking at it, and it looks like we got a total funding of $3,800,000, and yet you want to put about 15% of it to people. Can't some of this, if you're throwing out an RFB or whatever they call it, or request for a proposal, whatever else, can't you pass that engineering costs on to some of the contractors who want to do this stuff instead of having to have a dedicated person?
We could contract out the engineering, the construction inspection, the surveying. We won't have much control on the timelines. We could contract with companies to put bodies into City Hall and pay them to employ the people to do our work. We'll have to negotiate oversight. But the city hasn't chosen to do that with our projects because the city council wants to have direct control over an end product that's acceptable to the community. So, to try to explain this, when we talk about the personnel cost, you're talking about the trade of an engineer to design the reconstruction of the road. We can't hire the contractor to excavate the road, reinstall the base, the compaction, improve the pipes or whatever needs to be addressed underground without an engineer designing that, and that's part of the construction. So when we talk about 15% in construction design, construction management, I think you'll find that's a very reasonable, if not low figure.
Okay, so if we fast track the stuff where we need an engineer for the first 5 or 6 years, and then all of a sudden we're at a point where the roads are done and now all it is slurry seal and maintenance and that stuff, do we then just fire these guys? Because, usually when people get hired onto various government agencies, it's hard to have them leave.
Correct, and we have a succession plan. We not Turlock, but public sector constantly has employee turnover, through retirements, through promotions, through people changing careers. We will be very fortunate to be able to staff these 5 positions in this calendar year, quite honestly. There is a shortage nationwide in civil engineers. There is a shortage nationwide in surveyors. We have vacancies already in the city in these fields that we can't fill. Hence the reason we've asked the city council to give the city manager the authority to try to aggressively recruit people. We don't have 2-3 years to develop internal staff. We need experienced staff that we can bring in.
Okay, thank you very much.
And I don't want to sound too defensive. These are all great questions. We just want to be able to articulate to the community. We have thought this through. We have considered the potential of contracting out. Our engineer, Mr. Pitcock, has made it very clear to me what we can do in a year will take 2 years contracting, because most agencies, most private entities use public construction projects as fill-in projects because they prefer to work for private companies.
Any additional questions or comments? All right, bringing it back to the council. What is the pleasure of the council? Additional conversation? What are we looking at? Do I have a second? All right, we have a motion by Councilmember Jacob, seconded by Councilmember Bublak. Clerk, please read back the motion.
Authorizing the addition of 1 associate civil engineer, 1 assistant engineer, 1 engineering technician, 1 public works construction inspector, and 1 land surveying technician within the Development Services Department Engineering Division through an outside recruitment to address future construction projects associated with successful passage of Measure L, authorizing the city manager to offer vacation and sick leave incentives up to 120 and 80 hours respectively to lateral employees from comparable agencies or engineering firms, and authorizing the city manager to award 16 hours of vacation to any city employee who recommends an applicant who is ultimately hired.
That's correct. Please call the roll.
Councilmember Esquer,
Yes.
Councilmember Dehart,
Yes.
Councilmember Bublak,
Yes.
Councilmember Jacob,
Yes.
Mayor Soyset.
Yes, motion carries 5-0. Thank you so much.
I would like to say thank you very much. We have a lot of work ahead of us, and we're looking forward to getting started on it.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Moving on to item F, a request to affirm or modify the second round funding cycle for fiscal year 16-17, community events and activities grants funding. Mr. Schultz.
Honorable Mayor, Council, thank you. Grant funding for the Community Events and Activities Program is budgeted at $46,000 for fiscal year 2016-17. Grant funding is derived from the transit occupancy tax paid by hotel guests when they stay in Turlock. During the October 11th, 2016 council meeting, action was taken to suspend event funding in the amount of $5,000 from the Bring the Ruckus car show for failure to meet grant funding criteria, which resulted in reopening the 2016-17 funding cycle for reallocation of these funds. For the second round of funding, 2 organizations presented their events at the November 9th, 2016 meeting from the Parks, Arts, and Recreation Commission meeting, resulting in a total funding request of $7,000. As noted, there's only $5,000 left for reallocation in this program year. In the past, council has elected to fully fund the highest ranking event first, with the remaining funds being allocated in order of ranking until funds have been exhausted. The Turlock Parks Arts and Recreation Commission scored each event based on information contained in the application and the presentation. As directed, staff tallied the score sheets and ranked them in a cumulative average for council's review and consideration. That's an Exhibit A, and then copies of the score sheets in the funding applications are also attached in Reference B. So if we take a look at Reference A, we'll see that Turlock Junior Rodeo requested $2,000. Their average was 87.29. 2000 Central Valley Brewfest.
The remaining 3,000 and fund the Brewfest that way. But that's off the top of my head at 10 minutes to 10 o'clock at night. Anybody have any Vice Mayor?
I would concur.
Anybody over here? What are you thinking?
Just,
or no? What are you?
Well, in fairness, we said that the highest percentage gets the biggest amount, and even though they only asked for 2,000, quite frankly, it sounds like they're. I mean, if they wanted 2,500, I think you give it the 87% should get the higher amount, right? I mean, they only asked for 2,000, but it just seems to me that if we're supporting something and that's our rule.
So
Yeah,
are we
just
setting
based off their application and a request of 2,000, it's hard.
are we setting a precedent of giving people more money than they requested? I'm just asking.
Could be.
Okay. All right, I like it. That's a second one I didn't think of, but okay.
I didn't either.
What are we thinking? Do we want to?
25.
The only issue I think that we might run into is that they have to provide documentation that the money that they requested was used appropriately, which is what got us in this situation to begin with. So granting them more money than they're requesting could actually backfire. They might not be able to use it all for their event. I don't know the specifics of that event, but just throwing that out there.
Is anyone here from the Turlock Junior Rodeo by any chance? What we could do is we could make an offer of the 25-25 to both, and if the Turlock Junior Rodeo is willing to accept that, knowing that there are requirements to prove that they are going to use the $2,500 appropriately as is outlined by the application, then they can take it. Otherwise, it can be 2,000 and 3,000. So there can be an basically, if A, then B. Type thing.
My motion, yes.
Does that work?
That's
Does
what
that
I
make
said.
sense, Eric, or is that?
We can follow up tomorrow and get that cleared up.
All right. So is that clear, Councilman or Vice Mayor? Does it make sense? Does it make sense, Councilman?
I'm just kind of curious. Somebody asked for 2,000. Why do we want to give them more money? I mean, what happens to the money if we don't give it to them?
Right.
It stays with us, right?
No. So we're
Or
going to
what-
expend.
I mean, that's where I'm lost.
We're spending all $5,000, and so in this fund, that's what we voted for. And what the council member is saying is that the Turlock Junior Rodeo obviously scored higher, and so they only asked for 2,000, but we're going to give 3,000 to the Brewfest. Why not offer the $2,500 first to Turlock Junior Rodeo, split it evenly, if they can handle with providing receipts and documentation that they used it appropriately as per the guidelines. If they can't, the second option is that it's 2,000, which is what they requested, and then the 3,000 would go to the Brewfest, because you're trying to reward the fact that they scored higher,
And they're gonna
acknowledging
process like $11,000 are their expenses, so I presume they'll be able to.
Okay. Does that make sense?
Okay, now I understand.
Okay. So if that can be encapsulated in a motion, Clerk, and make you work for your money tonight, that would be great. So we had a motion by Councilmember Bublock, seconded by Vice Mayor DeHart. Clerk, you want to read that back to me?
No.
So, if you don't find humor in it, it's not very funny. So.
Modifying the second round funding cycle for fiscal year 2016-17 community events and activities grant funding with $2,500 to Turlock Junior Rodeo and $2,500 to the 2017 Central Valley Brew Fest. And then we want the option to ensure that Turlock Junior Rodeo can meet the requirements, and then if not, we'll bring it back, and it would be 3,000 to, would that go, the 3,000 go to the,
So the $2,500 to each, dependent
upon
on the agreement that Turlock Junior Rodeo can meet the obligations of the application,
okay,
and then semicolon. If not, then it'll be $2,000 to Turlock Junior Rodeo and $3,000 to the Brewfest. I don't think we want to bring it back for an additional vote. Does that make sense? Is that clear?
okay,
All right.
okay.
Okay. Can you please call the roll?
Councilmember Esquer,
Yes.
Councilmember DeHart,
Yes.
Councilmember Bublak,
Yes.
Councilmember Jacob,
Yes.
Mayor Soisek.
Yes. Motion carries 5-0. Thank you so much, Eric.
Thank you, Mayor Council.
Amber's coming up. All right. Request to determine the closure of North Soderquist Road between Folkerth Road and West Canal Drive for Modesto area A's to host a swap meet, and it is exempt from the provisions of the California Environmental Quality Act, and authorize the closure of North Soderquist Road between Folkerth Road and West Canal Drive for pedestrian safety for Modesto area A's to host a swap meet as well. What's going on?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Thank you so much for having me. On August 18th, 2016, the Parks and Recreation Public Facility Department received a special event application from the Modesto Area A's to host the 51st annual swap meet to be held at the fairgrounds. The special event application did include a street closure request of North Soderquist between Folkerth and West Canal Drive. The street closure is proposed to be in effect from Thursday, January 26th at 6 p.m. through Sunday, January 29th at 6 p.m. This closure has been requested for event purposes and pedestrian safety. Being an annual event, they do normally request the closure of this street. This is the first year they've extended that closure, and that request comes from several meetings with the special event committee and requests from PD asking that that will help with the no parking zones being utilized for early comers to the swap meet and kind of help control traffic on Fulkerth or in the early morning when the swappers are on their way in. The applicant has taken direction and has notified all those directly affected by the closure of tonight's public hearing. And they've also been great to work with in terms of with the special event committee. We've had several meetings. The special event committee has reviewed this application and supports the closure, and we don't feel that it will affect traffic significantly in that area. If you have any questions, I would be happy to answer them, or we also have two members of the Modesto Area A's who stuck with us tonight to answer any questions because they knew that this is a new request coming through for the extended closure.
Well, they know the keys to our heart, sticking through the whole meeting to see if we grant closure. All right. Any questions or comments from the council on this one? Pretty straightforward. Any questions or comments from the public? Would you guys like to say anything? And see us pass this road closure. I see. Absolutely. All right. Well, I'll close public participation on a good hunch that things are going to work in your favor. What's the pleasure of the council on this one? The resolution and the second. All right. We have we're going to take them separately. We have a motion by Vice Mayor DeHart, second by Councilman Esquer. Clerk, please read back the motion.
Determining the closure of North Soderquist Road between Fulkerth Road and West Canal Drive for Modesto Area A's to host a swap meet is exempt from the provisions of the California Environmental Quality Act, CEQA, in accordance with Section 15304, minor alterations to land of the CEQA guidelines.
That's correct. Please call the roll.
Councilmember Esquer,
Yes.
Councilmember DeHart,
Yes.
Councilmember Bublak,
Yes.
Councilmember Jacob,
Yes.
Mayor Soiseth.
Yes. Motion carries 5-0. And the second. All right.
Second?
So we have a motion by Councilmember Jacob, seconded by Vice Mayor DeHart. Clerk, please read it back and call the roll.
Authorizing the closure of North Soderquist Road between Fulkerth Road and West Canal Drive for pedestrian safety for Modesto Area A's to host a swap meet beginning on Thursday, January 26, 2017 at 6 p.m. through Sunday, January 29, 2017 at 6 p.m. and authorizing the city manager to apply appropriate conditions and restrictions on the street closure.
That's correct. Let's go.
Councilmember Esquer,
Yes.
Councilmember DeHart,
Yes.
Councilmember Bublak,
Yes.
Councilmember Jacob,
Yes.
Mayor Soiseth.
Yes, motion carries 5-0. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Council. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Amber, and thank you for all you guys do. As you can tell, the swap meet for us is a high priority. Even when we're discussing road closures or whatever it might be with the road intersection, we make sure we're cognizant of the swap meet because we know it's so central to Turlock. So thank you for all you do. And for sticking it out. Thank you. All right, matters too late for the agenda, not agenda items. I'm seeing none from both city attorney and city manager. Council items for future consideration, looking left and right, seeing none. Council comments, looking left, looking right. The only thing I have to add is that I will be attending the U.S. Conference of Mayors this coming week, where I'll be presenting with Mayor Vieira on our surface water project at the Water Council, which we both sit on, and I'll be also talking to Ted Brandvold, Modesto, while he's back there as well. All right, moving on, closed session items. City Attorney, what do we have up?
Thank you, Mayor. We're going to adjourn to closed session to consider items 12A, B, C, and D. All the relevant information is set forth on the agenda itself.
All right, now all of you don't jump at once, but who wants to motion for adjournment?
Second.
And we have a second. All right, motion by Councilmember Bublak, seconded by Vice Mayor DeHart. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
We're open session is adjourned.